Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Irvin Cakeman.
I'm Aurelia Lieb.
I'm Sam Williams, and today we have a very special guest that goes back to 2010 with me, Miss Sierra. Hello, Sierra.
Hello.
Tell us a little about yourself, and then a little about your Potter stuff.
Oh, goodness. Well, a little about myself. I am a Hufflepuff.
Hi.
That's the most important thing, I think. I met Sam long time ago, so I'm so happy to be here and so excited to be on your guys' podcast. I feel like I weirdly know all of you already because I've listened to so many other podcasts you guys have been on. So I feel like we're already friends, and I hope that we will actually be friends.
Yes, give it 2 hours, we will absolutely be friends.
Excellent.
That is fantastic. Tell us about your journey to Potter. How'd you get into Harry Potter?
So I got into Harry Potter when I was really little. I think I picked up... I honestly have no real concrete memories of reading the first two books. I just know that I did before the third one came out. And I know that because my grandma actually went on a trip, and she came back from Ireland with a UK copy of Prisoner of Azkaban, or the European copy. And she even wrote me a little note in there saying, the guy that I talked to at the bookstore said it isn't released in the US yet. I hope you enjoy it. So that was really exciting. And so that's actually the copy I have right in front of me right now. So I have it. It's proof, September 1999. And my whole family was really supportive of me reading Harry Potter, which was nice. And I was always a really early and advanced reader. And so I got hooked immediately and majorly, and looking back on it now, embarrassingly, obsessively. I'm talking every photo, article, mention. I had them in binders. I had every folder, every poster.
You'll fit right in here.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what do you mean? You're normal? So you're just like us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got the books on tape, on the physical cassette, and I would listen to them every night before I went to sleep. To put me to sleep would be the whir of the tape deck and Jim Dale's voice. And it got to the point that my parents had to ban me from listening to them because they were afraid that I couldn't go to sleep without them. They were potentially right, but I did it anyway. I would just lower the volume as much as possible and continue to do it, and I knew that they couldn't hear from their room. So I was addicted to listening to them over and over and over, and it even got to the point where I would know exactly what tape came next. So I would take all of the tapes from all the books and I would mix them all up, and then I'd put them back in random order. So I'd listen to Prisoner of Azkaban, tape 3, and then I'd go to Order of the Phoenix, tape 5, and then it would go back to Prisoner, tape 4, and it would just bounce around all over the place. So
what I'm hearing is you literally made a mixtape of the Harry Potter books?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. That, and then, every single shirt, Harry Potter themed birthdays. All my friends were Harry Potter fans. They all had Harry Potter themed birthdays. One friend, we went to Goblet of Fire, the premiere, for her birthday, and I just have this vivid memory of when Cedric dies. I was just sobbing because his dad's reaction is just so extreme. So I'm just sitting there sobbing, and my best friend's sitting next to me, and she just looks over and she's just like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And there's just this strange man sitting next to me who's looking at me like, what is this psycho teenager doing?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, we were involved in the whole 9. We wrote fan fiction. My friend actually got on MuggleNet with her fan fiction that was, inspired by me. Because I got a song stuck in her head and she had to write a fan fiction about it. But yeah, I mean, we went through, I went through everything. I was always on MuggleNet as soon as I could have access to a computer and just basically lived and breathed Harry Potter my entire life. So yes, I'm very excited to be on this podcast.
I think for the first time we have a guest in any of our recording history, we have a guest that predates reading the books. Because I read it right, like the day after Prisoner of Azkaban came out is when I started reading Harry Potter. And so I am now jealous and filled with rage.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and I'm a Johnny-come-lately. I didn't read them until 2001 when the first movie came out.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Ugh. You loser.
I know. I like to think I made up for it with enthusiasm once I did start reading.
If enthusiasm does fill the hole, then you've got it. Sierra, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book has always been Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm not sure if that's because it was, the special one my grandma brought back for me, or it's just the introduction to Sirius and Lupin, time travel. I'm always a fan. So I think it was just kind of a perfect storm of some of my favorite characters coming into play, and then just the themes of the book have always really intrigued me. My kind of runner-ups would be Order and Prince. Order just because I like all of the kind of espionage almost that goes into it, and just building all the suspense, and there's so many different elements and things that they're fighting the whole time. And Prince just because who doesn't love a good villain backstory?
Mm-hmm. Irvin hates it.
Yeah, that's why I've been obsessively analyzing it, like, line by line. Like, dear God, yesterday I was working on the Lightning Struck Tower, and I'm like, literally, like, quote a line, write 3 paragraphs of analysis. Next line, 3 paragraphs of analysis. It's so good.
And Sierra, what is your favorite character?
My favorite character, Sirius. He's always been, probably followed by Ginny, Luna, and Lupin are kind of all my secondary favorites, but Sirius has always just been my favorite. In fact, I have a vivid memory of being in a hotel room in San Diego and reading Order and reading when he passes through the veil, and I literally screamed, threw the book across the room, started sobbing. My mom came running out, thought something was terribly wrong, and I had to stop and say, I can't tell you because you haven't read it yet.
Oh my God.
So, because we were both reading at the same time, but she was a little bit behind me, and I was like, I don't want to spoil the book for you, and I'm just sobbing and trying to contain myself, and she's like, it's okay if you need to tell me what happens, and then I just screamed. I was like, Sirius died! And she's like, oh no, honey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you and I were destined to be friends. There's so much of your Potter stuff that just sits well with mine. Last question. What is the capital of Assyria? That's for all the Monty Python fans out there.
Yes, indeed. I have no idea.
Neither me either. You would have thought I would have looked it up since I've watched the movie since I was 9. It's fine.
I'm sure I've looked it up, but I've promptly forgotten.
We're very much looking forward to having you as a guest. Here we go with Aurelia on for what this episode's all about.
So today, for episode number 9, we've gathered to discuss the 38th chapter of the Harry Potter series, which is The Night Bus. And that is, of course, in Prisoner of Azkaban, and it's chapter number 3 on our quest to read all the 3rd chapters. As always, we encourage you to read the chapter before you listen, but as always, you can do what you want. So we're not your moms.
Sierra, this really seems like a perfect chapter for you. Prisoner, Sirius Black, checks all the boxes.
It really does. I was really excited when Sam told me which chapter we were doing. So I've reread it about 20 times since. Sorry. Kenzie, she really wants to say hi.
Hi, Kenzie.
Hi, Kenzie.
Hi, Kenzie.
What house will you be in?
That is a great question.
We can't know until she's 11.
Exactly. We will have a little sorting ceremony for her when she turns 11. That is not even a question. We have right now our Christmas stockings are all Harry Potter, and I have Hufflepuff. My husband has Gryffindor, and she just has Hogwarts. And when she turns 11, she can have her own house. So
That's so cute, and also
I love it.
Not that far away. It's like what, 2032? Yeah.
oh gosh, don't we can wait.
Hey, it's okay.
fine.
We'll
fine.
be recording like episode 300. We're gonna like check in with you, see what
that'd be
house
great.
she took.
Live feed into Sierra's living room in Montana. Yeah, that sounds great.
That'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
guys, our special 300th episode is just gonna be Kenzie sorting. You heard it here first.
I love it.
But all right, for this episode, I want to give a huge thanks to Sam Alman over on our Patreon, who bought us this round of drinks at the pub. Yay for Sam! Not this
Yeah,
Sam! Sam
Not
Alman!
the
Yay!
Sam. Hello, Sam Omen. Thank you.
We love our
Thanks.
butterbeer.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah, this round of drinks, much needed.
So while we're drinking our butterbeer, let's raise a toast to the comments on episode 6. So that episode was our last chapter focused episode, where we were doing chapter 3 of Chamber of Secrets, which was The Burrow. And we raise our glass to Snitches Get Stitches. Oh no, it's Snitches Get Snitches. I was like, I know what I'm saying. I was like, no, actually.
Hold on.
If I actually read it. So we raise our glass to Snitches Get Snitches, who said, during the episode, it is mentioned that Mundungus tries to hex Arthur when his back was turned. It made me wonder, is this the tight spot that Dumbledore got him out of that made Dung loyal to Dumbledore? I quickly realized Dung was part of the Order of the Phoenix in the First War, so this was unlikely. But it made me think more of Dumbledore and how he is able to find a use of everyone, regardless of their background or abilities. To me, this is one of the greatest attributes, just to name a few. Hagrid, the half-giant, not fully educated. Lupin, the werewolf. Snape, who is the Death Eater. They've added Harry, pig for slaughter, I joke, I kid, so I'm just gonna read it.
But actually...
Dung the criminal, and Filch the squib. To be honest, I can't think of a single person that Dumbledore interacts with that he doesn't find a use for. At least not those who are willing to work with Dumbledore. Just an interesting tangent my mind went down while listening to this great episode.
What a great comment.
Yeah. I think this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm in the camp of like, yeah, Dumbledore, good man, not a great guy. And it's because, okay, so in The Godfather, in the book, at the very end of the book, after the spoilers for this book that came out 5 decades ago, but at the end of the book, the new guy who takes over after the original Godfather has passed, recalls a conversation where his father is like, hey, you need a guy who's going to be an enforcer for you. So find the most savage criminal that you could think of, the worst murder, and get him off, right? Just make sure that his lawyer, you give him his lawyers and he gets off scot-free. And then you'll have a guy who's loyal to you for life. And that's kind of the energy that Dumbledore getting Dung out of a tight spot gives, where he's like, cool, now you've got this criminal friend dude that you got off from the law. Fun. Lovely. Good move, God Dumbledore. God Dumbledad. Godfather. Godfather Albus.
You'll get there.
Somewhere. There's a joke in there somewhere.
First of all, Mundungus isn't a violent criminal. right? Like, he occasionally tries to hex Arthur, but other than that, like, it's mostly stolen cauldrons here and there. So, not quite that bad.
As far as we know.
That is true. All of this is as far as we know.
Yes, Sam. Good job. Well done.
Okay, so as the person who wrote a book about Dumbledore, I feel like I'm gonna have to defend my guy here.
You what?
I what? Yeah, there's a book about Dumbledore called Dumbledore, The Life and Lies. You should all buy it and read it. Where I do go into how Dumbledore, he very much likes having people who are loyal to him. I'll give you that. That's sort of his main criteria in, who he works with. But I think the way he engenders it is fine. Which, I mean, okay, this might say more about my moral code than anyone else's. But it's like, he doesn't make his offers of help conditional or anything. It's not like he shows up to Dung and he's like, I'll get you out of Azkaban if you do X, Y, and Z. I think Dumbledore genuinely wants to help people, the downtrodden, the outcast, and all of that. And then he's good at, making assets out of the people whom he's already helped altruistically. So, I think he would still, help these people even if there was never any use for them. I just think he's also very good at sort of figuring out how anyone and everyone can be useful, playing to their strengths. So, I get where y'all are going, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
I don't want to be lumped in here because I'm more on your side. I think Dumbledore always, to me, has two qualities that are really dominant, and that's one of them is he is very strategic, but he's also very empathetic. And I think with all of these decisions, it's sort of a balance between which one is more dominant. But I would argue, and maybe that's just how I'm reading him and how I'm interpreting him, that he is more empathetic than he's a strategist. I'm not saying he's not a strategist, he very much is, but so.
Yeah. I love how you put that. That's really good.
Well, I haven't written a book, but there you go.
I mean, maybe you should. I'm just saying. Got a gift for turn of phrase.
I also think part of it, I've always kind of thought of it as maybe he's almost continuing to try to make up for his mistakes in his youth. And so helping anybody that he can find around him, he almost feels like he's redeeming himself for the mistakes that he feels that he's made. And, maybe it's all in Ariana's memory or something like that. So that's just kind of the headcanon that I've always had, is that anytime that he's looking at someone who maybe wouldn't have a chance otherwise, he's just, I have, almost like a compulsion, like I have to help this person to just continue putting good out into the world instead of for the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, he is collecting outsiders here, like his sister was an outsider, and he's collecting people here that the wizarding world has decided not to give a chance to.
Mm-hmm.
It would be hilarious if this was his attempt to make up for Aberforth for not saving Aberforth from the law with his goat penalties, and he just was waiting for a criminal to do some goat-related stuff, and it's just like Mundungus has like an infinite bag filled with goats or something. Baby goats, little kids running around.
But, Sierra, to rebut your point, okay, if we believe Elphias Doge's hagiography of Dumbledore, he was always like this, even sort of pre the whole Grindelwald flirtation. I think Elphias has this great line about how he was always willing to extend a hand to a boy with dragonpox. So I think Dumbledore's always had that empathy, sort of, even before he did anything that needed redeeming.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, on your side. I just feel like what he went through and how everybody would have felt about his sister probably made that even more extreme. And even, if you go by, Elphias Doge's accounting, Ariana was already alive at that time, and he's already seen how the world treated her. So it could be kind of both, where that's just who he is, but also seeing Ariana in the world would kind of make that even stronger of a drive for him to find those people who need that extra help.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to give an honorable mention to another conversation, because we've had quite a good few comments on this episode. And that was a conversation between Snitched Gold 3075. And I think this time I've read the username correctly. And Absent Minded Raven, who was our guest Matthew on episode 6. And they were talking about Rowling's writing when it comes to teasing new characters. And they went on a quest of the ultimate chapter of foreshadowing. And I just want to say, check it out, because it's really good.
It's a great comment thread.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna circle back to that point in our main discussion today.
For sure. But before we get to our main discussion, should you have chosen not to read the chapter, or should you just like listening to my ridiculous chapter summaries, here is Chapter 3 of Prisoner of Azkaban, The Night Bus. Panic! Harry Potter is missing. Inspector Dumbledore and his lackey Cape Man Fudge are on the job. And if Patrick, if you could insert this cartoon noise where it goes, that'd be great. For there's a sneaky criminal about. Sirius Black and his crisp clasp of cockroach clusters roam the streets of London. It will take all the brain power of Dumbledore and Fudge to keep Marge's entrails from littering the lawns of London, to rescue Harry before Stan shunpikes him, and to capture Sirius once and for all. But Harry doesn't know anything about that. He's just a regular teenage kid who has inflated his aunt with his mind, blood, spirit magic thing. It's cool. Harry packs his bag, gets his dad's old bathrobe out, and takes off for the hills. He runs into a dog, gets scared, and summons Arthur Weasley's best case for clemency, the Night Bus. Unfortunately for all of us, the Night Bus has absolutely no lance to skewer other buses with. Although, it doesn't have talking heads on it either, so small miracles. Harry rides a bus for a while, reveals that he has a rather big crush on Neville Longbottom, and manages to walk right into the arms of the law. Big old Uncle Fudge, who doesn't have any chocolate, but does offer the wealthy Harry Potter free room and board. It's just too bad he used the budget for Arthur's new promotion on Harry's deluxe accommodations. Harry gets to read the Daily Prophet, which is just one S away from an incredibly racist headline. Then he's outed by Fudge, which Stan never recovers from, and then is insulted by Fudge, in which he replies, "Dead on your feet? Your political career's about to be dead on your feet. Don't you know who I am? I'm Harry freaking Potter." Harry gets off scot-free, and somewhere you can feel Umbridge shuddering. Fudge shows all that chocolate people expect is actually shoved in his ears, blocking out all noise, and Harry gets to see Hedwig, who always comes back. Well, until she doesn't.
I always deliberately skip this part in the document so I can experience this live, but Oh, well done.
That was incredible. I do have one nitpick.
Yeah.
What makes you think that the Ministry is paying for Harry's room at the Leaky Cauldron?
Because it's great for a joke, my guy.
Lies. This is libel. This is slander. Sam, this is worthy of the Daily Prophet.
You know, actually, Irvin, if you read in between the letters of this chapter, it spells out Harry Potter, free room and board, use Arthur Weasley's pension and promotion money for it. I don't know how you've never seen it, but it's right there.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense. All right. Well.
Always tough to recover from my chapter summaries. Here we go.
Yeah, that was incredible. So let's get into it. For me, I'm just so relieved that we are in a post-Dursley chapter right now.
Oh, for real, my
because
God.
Because this whole... Sophia pointed this out, where if we're doing chapter 3 of every book, it's going to be a lot of quality Dursley time. But here, it's not. Like, because chapter 3 is always escaping from the Dursleys by enchanted vehicle. that's what we were talking about in Chamber of Secrets. But this time, we've already left them behind. We don't have to talk about the Dursleys. Yay.
Except for Marge floating around.
You know what? We're just gonna leave her floating up there.
That's the last we saw from Marge. In fact, I do have comments about her, so you will eat your words soon.
All right, I'm ready to eat them. But we need to talk about Harry James Potter literally running away from home in this book. And it's such a thing in kids' books, like, running away from home. And so, first of all, I'm curious, did any of you ever, quote unquote, run away from home as a kid?
Yes, thought about it, but not even, remotely tried to do it.
I never did, but all of my siblings tried at one point. One of them never made it off the front porch. And another one circled around, acted like he was leaving, and then he hid in the backyard for like a day or two.
Swimming in the pool.
Amazing. Yeah. I never did, which is surprising, but I came close a few times. I definitely, though, as a kid, planned out strategies for, like, where I would go, like, whom I would stay with, 'cause Ravenclaw. Right here. Like, I was gonna have a plan, I was gonna have a strategy, like, none of this, like, take my trunk and end up in the middle of the street nonsense.
Yeah, I never actually tried. There were a number of years where I was like, yep, I'm leaving, and then would just sit and then eventually read Harry Potter to calm down. But I had a family member, someone in my family who definitely, when she was like, I don't know, 6, 5, was like, you know what? I just want to live at the playground in the park with my next door neighbor. So she took the next door neighbor and walked out to the park and tried to live there. They found her in the bushes trying to eat the blueberries that were growing there, being like, I mean, I got to eat something.
It's kind of adorable.
I mean, I feel like that's a good plan, yeah. You have company, you have food, like, no notes.
Entertainment? Absolutely. No notes?
No notes.
Yeah. I mean, whenever we talk about running away from home, my mind immediately goes to the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary, where Ramona decides to run away, and her mother very helpfully packs her a suitcase that's way too heavy because it has, like, all of the essentials, and she's like, well, I've packed it all up, so there you go, sweetie, best of luck. And Ramona, like, tries to lug the suitcase. She's like, yeah, okay, this isn't working.
I remember that. My mom did something very similar. The one that never made it off the porch, he was sitting there with a really big bag. That was basically the size of him. And she was like, yeah, everything you own is in there. So, shoo.
Yeah. Yeah, like, have your rollerblades in case you need to get around quickly.
For the FBI that's listening in on our conversation, that child is now over 18, so you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, he's just fine. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Also, if the FBI is listening, please leave a comment on our website. We'd love to hear from you. Yes. Also, everyone should read the Beverly Cleary books if you haven't, because they're amazing.
Okay, I'll add them to my list.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, Aureo, like, did Beverly Cleary, like, make it across the pond?
I've never heard of it, so probably not.
Oh, okay, so it's this, like, really, like, perfect, sweet, like, growing up Americana books, written a million years ago, and one of her most popular books follows this, like, crazy kid called Ramona and, like, all the nonsense she gets up to.
Okay.
Yeah, highly recommend them.
Sounds a bit like Astrid Lindgren. Not sure if that's...
Yeah. It is. It's less, like, fantasy whimsy. It's very much, like, set in the real world with, like, no fantasy elements.
Oh, yeah. There's multiple books of Astrid Lindgrens that have 0 fantasy elements.
Oh, okay. I've only read Pippi Longstocking and Carlson, so, yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole series of, like, where she just follows, like a neighborhood of, like, 3 houses and all the kids, and nothing happens. And they turned it into a movie once, and it's the most boring movie ever because it's just kids playing. And it's like, nothing really exciting happens. It's just, like, their daily life, and they go to school and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have never heard of these books, so you're in fine company.
Sam!
I know, I'm sorry.
You've never heard of the Beverly Cleary books?
Nope.
What? Mouse and the Motorcycle?
Come on. That sounds familiar.
I think I read
Henry
that
Higgins,
80 times.
The Paper Route.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Okay, so the Mouse and the Motorcycle sounds familiar. But yeah, I don't know it by author name, certainly.
Fair
Let me
enough.
Google it. Beverly Clearly. Wait,
I mean, the Beezus books, the Henry Higgins books, Ellen's Runaway Imagination. Like, I mean, I have a bookshelf of like...
I have seen these before, but I have never read them.
Have
They
they just
are
turned into a
absolutely
kids'
wonderful.
book club,
Oh
by the
no,
way?
I read.
Yes.
I read Dear Mr. Henshaw. I've read that one.
Aw, that was a sweet one.
Yeah.
I know this is rich because we're on a podcast about a fantasy series, but I really liked like the kids' books that were just like slice of life. Exactly, Kenzie gets it. Like sometimes you just want to like read about a kid on his paper route. Like,
Absolutely.
it's nice.
It reminds me of the, not to go off on another tangent about another book,
Yeah,
author,
we're
but-
already here.
but Frederick Bachman, all of his books are very like slice of life and just living and like a group of people living in an apartment building or an old man and the people that he sees, but they're all really good. I really enjoy all of his books.
Put those in the doc because I want to check them out. I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Same.
Isn't, in a way, Prisoner a little bit of a reprieve because it's the one book that doesn't directly deal with Voldemort?
Yes.
It is also very well done getting us back on topic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it is like a nice change of pace because I definitely think by the time Prisoner came out, we were all ready for like, all right, so here's the formula. Harry's going to face off with Voldemort at the end of the year and yada, yada, yada. And then we're like, oh no, we're not doing that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, back to Harry running away. I have notes on his plan to run away, unlike the neighbor who went to the park who thought of everything. Harry, not so much. So part of his plan is to bewitch his trunk to make it feather light, attach it to his broom, and then cover himself with the invisibility cloak and fly off. So, is the assumption that no one will see a broom with a giant-ass trunk attached to it flying on its own through the sky? Or are there so many invisible people flying on brooms with trunks that, like, who's gonna know which one Harry is? The 13-year-old logic at play here never fails to amuse me.
It's dark. What are you talking about? No, I do love the fact that he's like, yeah, I'll have the invisibility cloak so they won't know it's me.
On the broom with the trunk, yes.
Last night at 1 a.m. while I was working on the document, I wrote down, I was like, I think it's fairly possible that Harry's small enough that this will work. Because, like, the cloak still fits him, Hermione, and Ron. And then I remembered that it's not just him and the broomstick, but also this giant trunk behind him. And I was like, that's stupid, Sam. So now my headcanon is this: if he had actually managed to make his trunk feather light, which then he also should be able to shrink it down. Let's be clear. If, like, just he's being an adult. But my headcanon is if he shoots off with just the invisibility cloak flapping around him, showing his ankles, and the broomstick you can see, and the trunk you can see, I'm fairly certain Mad Eye Moody's just out on the porch in his rocking chair with his giant staff that's also a wand, and just ready to shoot him down, and that's how Harry dies.
And the series ends then and there.
It is funny, though, to think that, he is in trouble for using magic, so clearly he could just now continue to use magic. But, like, the only other idea he has is he'd never be able to drag his trunk all the way to London. I'm like, really?
Yes.
That's your two options?
Like, my friend, Wingardium Leviosa. Like, remember the troll?
Yeah.
But then, like, when he is in danger, he immediately starts using Lumos. Like,
because he doesn't know Expelliarmus that well yet.
Because that would be so useful on his trunk?
Yes, you expel it and it flies into the air. And you just keep hitting it with Expelliarmus. Like, Basically dribbling a soccer ball on your head.
Yeah, is that your favorite combo in Hogwarts Legacy? You just keep hitting them with Expelliarmus to make them bounce?
Yep.
Good.
Bouncing boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this chapter and, like, the earlier books in general do such a good job of, like, sort of following, like, a kid's thought process, honestly. Because he does turn much more, like, analytical and rational, like, as the series progresses. But yeah, here he is so very 13.
We shall allow it.
First thought, best thought.
I mean, it is described that he is thinking about it from all angles. It's just, I think, that he has not developed a solution thinking yet. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
He's at least not just running off doing something stupid. He's attempting to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's already done the running off doing something stupid part already, so.
Yeah. Run up to something stupid.
Well done, Harry.
Check.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I found a really great bit of analysis over at the Lexicon, in their, like, chapter by chapter guide, that talks about how, like, the very neat ring, that this makes with Order of the Phoenix, because obviously 3 and 5 reflect each other. So I'm just gonna read, straight from the Lexicon's commentary. Harry is on the run. He makes it a couple of streets away from the Dursleys before ending up, exhausted and scared, in Magnolia Crescent. Not for the first time, Harry wonders if he will be expelled and what will become of him. This flight down darkened streets parallels his adventure in the same neighborhood at the beginning of the 5th book. Then the streets are familiar, not frightening, but the dangers are much more real. In that instance, he's being watched over by the Order of the Phoenix. Now he's being watched over by Sirius in the form of a huge black dog. In Book 5, the most immediate danger comes from the Minister of Magic, the very person who appears at the end of this chapter to rescue Harry from his predicament. How things change in the Wizarding World over the next 2 years.
Great analysis. 10 out of 10, A+.
It's so good. Because, yeah, like, the irony of Harry being like, oh my god, it's the Minister of Magic, I'm in so much trouble, whereas not. And then in Order of the Phoenix, he very much, yes, is in lots of trouble with the Minister of Magic. Mm-hmm. For no good reason.
Because Fudge got all full of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if he turned up in, like, Book 5 and he's like, Fudge, remember my permission slip you didn't want to sign? Sirius Black did sign it for me.
Also, who is checking those permission slips?
I think head of house.
Because if anybody except for, Dumbledore sees Sirius Black's name on the permission slip, that's a no.
I know, I wish we had the moment at the end of the book where he runs into Cornelius Fudge and Fudge is like, well, now that all this unpleasantness is behind us, I'll sign your permission slip. And he's like, oh no, don't worry about it, Minister. I got Sirius Black to sign it. It's all good.
He was my godfather, so even though he's a criminal, he still has permission.
And rules are rules.
Rules are rules. Laws are laws. If you want them, change them.
And so he does. Fudge really does.
Yeah, but then at the end of Book 3, Fudge goes, I would never interfere at Hogwarts. Education should be left alone.
Womp womp.
Yeah,
And
that
then he
also
realizes
ages
Dumbledore's
well.
taller than him. Yeah, really ages well.
Then he's like, oh, we don't interfere. Next year we'll just do a tournament that, like, could be deadly to everyone involved, but
not Harry, because he's too young.
Interfering with education. It's just, extracurricular activities that we're interfering.
It's just extracurricular activities. Yeah, no, they're interfering at Hogwarts has nothing. It's so funny. It has nothing to do with Cedric dying and everything to do with feeling like Dumbledore's the bigger man. It's like, if they wanted to put an educational decree in about, like, hey, no students doing deadly things, I'd be like, all right, sure, that makes sense. A student literally just died. But it's not.
No, it's just Fudge's inferiority complex.
I mean, in fairness, you know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate because this is fun. In fairness to Fudge, the first one he passes, Educational Decree number 22, where if the headmaster can't find a decent professor, the ministry should find one. In fairness, the last professor that Dumbledore hired turned out to be a crazy Death Eater in disguise. So,
and the one before that, was great.
Maybe Dumbledore's hiring decisions are not the best.
One could argue that the ministry did a poor job of keeping him incarcerated.
True, yes.
So if we're going all the way back.
I mean, there's a lot of fault to go around.
I mean, I'm not always convinced education is the primary goal at Hogwarts.
Oh no, it's really kind of beside the point.
It's Dumbledore's power trip.
Yeah. It's like when I tell people that I studied abroad in London, and they're like, "Oh, what'd you study?" I was like, No. It was much more abroad than study. Like, I mean, I went to a class on occasion, but like, I traveled around Europe. Let's be clear.
Well, you studied Europe. There's lots to be,
Yeah,
discovered.
you know what? I learned a lot of geography, like way more than I was ever taught in American schools.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So you can point out where Stuttgart is, but you can't say where Sloan, Illinois is.
Nope, not a clue. It's either next to Chicago or it isn't.
I'm pretty sure Sloan, Illinois doesn't exist, and I made that up because Sierra and I went to college in Illinois. It's fine.
Okay, I apologize to all of our listeners in Illinois.
I don't. Illinois sucks. No, just kidding.
Yeah, same. I hated it.
No, you know what? No, I will fight you, because I went to Chicago and it was delightful.
Oh, good.
And I say that as a huge snob from New York City, but I really liked Chicago.
Cool. So Harry's running away.
Harry's running away, and he summons the night bus by accident. And I have to say, this paragraph where it's described how he's losing his wand and it flew out of his hand, and then, seconds later, exactly where he was is now a big bus. I was like, what happened to the wand? Like, maybe I'm too damaged from book 2 where Ron doesn't have a functioning wand, but where did the wand go? And also lucky it didn't, get rolled over by the night bus.
Okay, I don't think he could have been run over by the night bus, because everything jumps out of the night bus's way. So I think if we'd had another second, Harry would have just magically jumped out of the bus's way, like the mailboxes.
Does it work on animate things? Or is it only inanimate objects? That's the question.
I think it does, because doesn't a barn jump out of the bus's way at some point? The barn has animate objects in it. I'm just picturing the cows and the horses also going moo. Whoa, what was that?
I hope the horses also said that. They're concerned that they're not going to move if the magic thinks that they're a horse instead of a cow, and so they're just like, yeah, we're cows, moo. Oh my gosh. I think also, to me, this is always, not always. The first time I read it, I was like, cool. The second time I read it, I was like, oh, I bet the night bus was going to hit him, and that the second later, when he moves, that is the night bus's magic working on him.
Huh.
Oh, that could also be it.
Yeah. Now that you're saying it. But does that mean his wand is also automatically protected?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
But also, what a great game that is. Where did the wand go? It's like, Where is Waldo? But for an audiobook format. and our listeners can just write hey, I bet the wand went here whenever we sort of lose track of wands.
Okay.
Where did the wand go?
What are the rules of the game, though?
You get to make up where the wand went, and we give you pluses in the comments. And we get excited.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Oh.
Crying child.
Kenzie doesn't want to play that game.
So we're introduced to the night bus, and I picked this out for the first time, I think, that he says, we can take you anywhere you want to go. And I'm sort of wondering what the limits are. I'm assuming they are probably Britain, because later on we are on a Welsh island, so it can clearly hop over some bodies of water, but would it be able to go to Europe?
I mean, I think so. Because isn't one of the places it goes, in Ireland? So it can clearly, cross water, it just can't, stop underwater.
Yeah. So one of, there's one, 2 places in Wales, but one of them is an island, so it's a Welsh island.
Oh yeah, sorry. I knew it went, somewhere that was not on mainland Britain.
Yeah.
So I don't see why it couldn't go to Europe. The channel isn't that wide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be my argument. I mean, if you can go to an island, then why wouldn't you be able to go over to France? And then if you're already over there.
France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably can't go over to North America because, distance matters in Magic, and that would be a big jump.
Unless they're skating across the polar ice caps and they go, from Ireland over to Iceland and then up to the Antarctic and then over to Alaska and then down.
Would just have to be a lot of jumps, I guess.
Sam, maybe you need to study abroad and brush up on geography.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the Arctic, not the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And also Alaska is like the other side.
I teach English and not anything else. And even then, I'm not great at it. I think the argument against believing Stan on this is that it's Stan.
Yeah.
So maybe it can't go anywhere.
I mean, there's also, we have no idea what international travel is like really in the wizarding world anyways. Like, do you have passports and stuff like that?
We know what it's like in the 20s because Newt Scamander says, you knew I would have had to go through a muggle port instead of a wizard one.
If you say so.
I do say so. In fact, Eddie Redmayne says so.
Yeah.
And
great.
if we don't believe Eddie Redmayne, then who can we trust?
No one, clearly.
That's a valid question.
So actually, while we're on the topic, like, let's get into the night bus, because, like, I love it. I love it so much. And I was researching it. I think it's based on the stories of, like, a phantom bus tearing wildly around London in the 1930s. Like, this was, like, an actual thing that people, like, claimed to have seen and, claimed to have been, like, bowled over by. So I think Joe, like, heard these stories and rumors and was like, oh, that's definitely a wizard thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And she has also said in the past that it is a wordplay on night bus.
Yes.
So, because...
Which,
those are like the means of transport after the rest of the public transportation stops.
Yeah. And, like, it's an excellent wordplay because, like, the night bus, with a K is, like, a rescue, a knight in shining armor. And, like, let me tell you, that really is the feeling. Like, when a night bus shows up in London, like, you're like, oh my god, my knight in shining armor, take me places. Cause, like, yeah, when I was studying abroad, like, the tube stopped running by midnight and, I don't drive or anything. So, like, yeah, I waited for the night buses. Sometimes more than one. It definitely was a very long trek home from Heathrow Airport at 1 a.m.
Oh, gosh.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I grew up, we had a night bus, but it was almost more like a taxi thing. Like, you had to call a number and request that it would come, but it would still only come at the time it was supposed to come according to the timetable. But if you didn't call for it, it wouldn't come at all. It's like a bit weird rules, but it was... Yeah. But if the bus driver was nice, it would actually drive you all the way home and not just to the next bus stop on the route. So it was almost a bit like a cheap taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
crazy.
So it's one of the key phone numbers to have in your phone. What's the phone number?
I'd have them on speed dial at that point.
Dating yourself with a speed dial. Excellent.
Yeah. I think my biggest question with the night bus is just, like, how is it not an infraction of the statute of secrecy? I mean,
right?
When we were going back to, like, everything that has to jump out of the way, Muggle, like, all the items, the buildings, the, clearly people that we've established, and the cows and the horses. I mean, even Stan's, like, explanation, don't listen properly, do they? Don't look properly, neither. Never notice nothing, they don't. That's not a very good explanation. Like, I mean, Muggles are noticing wizards in robes and shooting stars and owls when, the day of Voldemort's downfall. And so how do they not notice entire buildings jumping out of the way? Even if they don't notice the bus itself, they would have to notice entire buildings moving in random places all over.
Me, pick me.
Yes, please. I need an answer.
I think it's because there's anti-Muggle charms on the bus. Like, the problem with the shooting stars and the owls and all that is that, like, there's no, like, Muggle repelling charm on the shooting star or the owl. Like, that's just stuff, like, you can plainly see. The night bus, I'm sure, has every, Muggle repelling, Muggle banishment, unplottable, like, whatever charm on it. And also the, like, stuff jumping out of the way, that doesn't seem to register for Muggles because, in Order of the Phoenix, when we see number 12 Grimmauld Place, like, pop into existence, no, sorry. I'm thinking of the movie when the buildings are moving.
Yes, you are.
In the book, the building is just sort of appearing between them.
Wait. A movie-ism tripped you up?
It's because Order of the Phoenix is not that bad compared to the other movies.
This is true.
I know that this is a rare occurrence.
I will say, though, in your defense, they do, I'm 90% sure that in Order, they do mention that the buildings on either side continued to, like, play their music and things and did not notice.
Yeah, because I think in the books it's like, you know, the buildings are being like squeezed out by it, so it's not quite moving. It just appears that way to Harry. I'm trying to look it up actually.
I'm on it right now.
I tried to pull my book out, and now Kenzie really wants it. So she clearly has good taste. So
yeah. Blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, no sooner had he reached the part about number 12 Grimmauld Place than a battered door emerged out of nowhere between 11 and 13, followed swiftly by dirty walls and grimy windows. It was as though an extra house had inflated, pushing those on either side out of its way.
Yeah, all right.
So I think it's kind of similar here, where, like, you know, from the night bus's perception, like, all the stuff is jumping out of its way, but from, like, you know, that stuff's perception, like, nothing is happening. Except the cows and the horses, who are very distressed.
Very distressed. Absolutely. Well, you know, magic affects animals very differently. I will say, I feel like the fact that Arthur's not fired for having the Ford Anglia, because one, they're never able to actually find the car and, like, say, yes, he made this car and it's bad because. But also, I think that Arthur's defense is like, listen, I wasn't planning on driving it. The night bus already exists, so we know Muggle technology can drive around and be good. And, like, maybe I was trying to start a taxi cab service. You don't know. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm about.
I mean, I think the point is that the night bus is, like, registered and, you know, legal and, like, you know, the ministry is aware of it and has signed off on everything to do with it. I think the problem with Arthur's car is that sort of he was tinkering with it in the garage. Because, like, the ministry has magical cars and all of that. It's just that, like, the ministry has them, not private citizens.
Yeah, but he wasn't planning on using them. That was the loophole.
Which is fine, except then it was used, and hence the inquiry.
He literally drives it to King's Cross, even though he's not supposed to have it. Yeah, I was never planning on using it. In flying mode.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on using it on the roads, because where we're going, we don't need roads.
We don't need roads. Sorry, that's Grease, and now we've gotten sued.
I wonder if Arthur ever, like, wanted to, like, you know, be a night bus conductor in another life. Like, you know, did he have an internship with Ernie Prang? I think Arthur would be, like, completely enchanted with the night bus. And then you can, like, drive through Muggle towns and, like, see how the Muggles live. Like, yeah, I think in another life, Arthur would have become the night bus conductor, but he had a family to provide for, so he was like, fine, I'll go into the ministry.
I now need this fan fiction of young Arthur in the style of Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I want to be where the Muggles are.
Exactly. He wants to see them dancing.
And now Disney is suing us.
Yeah. No, it's this one's clearly parody. I just stole the tune for Grease and did nothing with it.
But I think, again, as something I haven't picked up on before, and it's probably more now that I'm older that I'm even picking up on it, but Harry describes Stan Shunpike to only be a few years older than himself, with like 18, 19. But like at that age, from like 13 to someone who's either 18 or 19, that is like a big age gap. Like I definitely would have thought as a 13-year-old, was like, wow, this person is an adult.
Right, he's a grown-up.
I need all the listeners to see the joke that's in the doc, though. Not only has Aurelia written adult in all caps, but it's with a little TM on the side. Fully stamped, you've got your papers that say legal.
Yeah. Because, you know...
Right, and you have your shit together, you have it all figured out.
Yeah, like we do.
I mean, doesn't everyone over the age of 18? I certainly thought so.
Oh, God.
But I mean, yeah, this is probably one of the things where, you know, it's showing that Rowling is a much older adult writing this, where you're like, yeah, a 13 or an 18-year-old, to me now, I'm like children. But like, as a 13-year-old, I would have definitely not thought that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I think it's because Harry thought, like, Stan was like an adult. Like, you know, he sees the conductor, he's like, oh my god, full-blown grown-up. And then he's like, oh, grown-up, but not that old. Like,
but not,
only 18.
Not that old. He's an adult. He kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I actually hate this dude.
Like, I feel like Harry gets to, like, he's an adult, but barely.
Barely. Also, someone put him in Azkaban for me. Thanks.
He also, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, he has to be 19, because otherwise he would have been in Hogwarts during Harry's first year.
Yeah, but how much do we think Harry was observing seventh years?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
not at all.
like it's Harry.
Well, also, we don't know that Stan went to Hogwarts. And he also could have left after OWLs. I think that's, like, a thing in Britain where, like, you take your big exams and then you don't have to continue.
Yeah, that is
Oh
a
my
thing.
God.
Yeah. So I just sort of always assumed that Stan, like, either dropped out of Hogwarts or was homeschooled.
He is a dark wizard. My God, he killed someone on a glacier. Ron was like,
Not everyone who goes to Durmstrang is a dark wizard, okay? Sam, now you are offending all of Eastern Europe. Stop.
Yep.
We will have 0 listeners after this episode.
Yeah, our listenership suddenly like, boop, 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 0.
Because all of our listeners are from Illinois and Eastern Europe. Welcome!
Listeners, if you are from Illinois or Eastern Europe, first of all, we apologize. Second of all, please post that on the website so we can prove to Sam he should stop offending you.
I will eat a sorting hat, if that's true.
You heard it here, folks. We have it on audio. Sam's gonna be eating a sorting hat.
With some important caveats. Let's not just cut out that audio and put it on Twitter.
Yeah. I just think it's great that, like, Harry goes to the mat for Stan Shunpike in the later books.
Yeah,
like, Stan is the reason he won't work with the Ministry of Magic. He's like, oh, I'll be your poster boy, but, is Stan in Azkaban? Like, who could have known?
Just because of one wild night.
I mean, listen, sometimes the wild nights are the ones you remember.
Indeed.
Okay, so talking of Stan and Ernie, this is actually also a fun Easter egg. Stan and Ernie are the names of Joe Rowling's grandfathers. That was just a little Easter egg she dropped in. And, like, I think the names are great because you have that, but you also have the fact that prang is apparently British slang for crash, which, you know, bodes well for Ernie's driving.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a driver's license if everything moves out of your way?
Clearly not.
And I don't think you have to be licensed to drive in the Wizarding World anyways.
They should really have a broom license now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, they just put a bunch of 11-year-olds on these things that can go 65 miles an hour and crash into trees. And also birds. So you can have, like, the skier issue of going down a mountain and crashing into a tree. And you can also have the I just landed in the Hudson because I hit a bird issue.
Sure.
They should license brooms. Irvin's here for the... What's the political group called? Oh, I can't remember.
The what?
Libertarian? You're the libertarians of the broomstick world.
I think so. You know what? Less bureaucracy. Let people fly on any broom they want.
Let people fly.
Let my people fly.
Did you guys see that there's a video on TikTok that's been going around on Harry Potter TikTok where it's somebody at the Wizarding World and they're looking at the different flags that they wave during Quidditch matches and it's like roar roar Gryffindor, rah rah Ravenclaw, win win Slytherin, and then it goes come on Hufflepuff. They couldn't be bothered to come up with a rhyme, and it just sounds so desperate.
Yeah. We're enough, let's go, Hufflepuff.
Yeah, that would have been
Well
better.
done, nothing.
Exactly.
Oh my god. Okay, here's a question about Ernie Prang. Are we glad that they did the shrunken heads in the movie adaptation, or were we like, could have done without that? Maybe stick to the source material there, Warner Bros.
I mean, I think you know which side I come down on.
Huge shrunken head fan.
Yeah. My whole apartment is decked out in them.
When you open your fridge, they're inside there. When you open your laundry room, they're inside there. When you sleep on a pillow of shrunken heads.
Creepy.
Yep.
I think, like, watching it as a kid, it was entertaining, and for, I think, months afterwards, my dad and I would just go, "Take it away," Ern, at each other, like, constantly. So it was good for a joke, but I think it didn't really make sense, I guess. It was just kind of like, okay, put a weird thing in because magic, ? But I don't think it necessarily was bad. But it was definitely weird. Like, I want to be a fly on the wall in that pitch meeting where they're like, we need a shrunken head in this bus. It's not magical enough. We need a talking shrunken head.
It needs to be Jamaican or from one of the other islands that is correlated with the British. Like, we need some representation in here. So let's remove the body completely and just have it be the head. That'll check boxes.
Yep. I mean, I will say the head is, like, not even in the, like, top 10 most offensive things in that movie, because the whole movie is a fucking disaster. But yeah, also not a fan of the head.
I love how aughts the editing is on that. How, like, that movie is from the double O's in the 2000s, because when they start doing the long faces and everything, and it just, like, Alfonso Cuarón is, like, this legendary director, sure, whatever, movie director. And then they get to this editing where it's like, why the long faces? And I'm like, cool. That's my favorite movie right there.
Ugh.
Don't yell at me.
Well, moving on to happier thoughts. When Harry is asked his name, he pretends to be Neville Longbottom. So, first of all, we were playing Harry Potter trivia the other day, and this fact, like, blew my friends' minds. Because they're like, I mean, casual Harry Potter fans, like, they've read the books a couple times, but don't have our encyclopedic knowledge.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? So, yeah, excellent trivia question. Do we think this is, like, meant to be a reference to Neville being the not chosen one in the prophecy? Yes. Right? Because the book 3, book 5 ring makes me think that, like, yes, that's where we're going with it.
I don't think that there's, like, really another reason to do it, too. I mean, I joked around in the chapter summary about, like, Harry shows that he has a huge crush on Neville, because, like, why else would he be thinking of Neville before Ron and Hermione? But I think, like, the reason why you do this from the writing standpoint is to a little bit of foreshadowing. Into the fact that Harry is not Neville, even though he could have been, and Neville is not Harry, even though he could have been. Because, like, it's just the idea of, like, I'm Neville, not Harold Portraiture. I'm not that guy. Like, I'm Neville Longbottom. I don't understand why else you would do it other than maybe there's some comedic element to it, but certainly it's lost on me after the 50,000 rereads.
I think part of it is, this is a recurring theme, is when you're trying to think of a random name to pretend to be someone else, you just come up with, like, a random-ass name that pops into your head. Because we see this a lot in Deathly Hallows, where Hermione is like, I'm Penelope Clearwater, and Ron is like, I'm Stan Shunpike. Like, the first name that pops to your head won't necessarily be, like, your best friend, because also you're not trying to think of your best friend, you're trying to think of, like, a person whom you are not. That would be someone you're not as close to. Yeah,
I mean, Harry comes up with Vernon Dudley.
Yeah, exactly.
It is so weird, though, that he pops out with Neville's name because, I mean, first of all, he was thinking of Ron 10 seconds before. And then also, like, the Longbottoms, wouldn't they be like a known family? I mean, they're one of the pureblood families and stuff.
Yes, and their last name's Hilarious.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
everyone
I
should
feel
know
like you would know.
Well, no, you'd know who the Longbottoms are, but you wouldn't necessarily know what their, like, 13-year-old kid looks like.
Yeah, but you'd probably be like, why is their 13-year-old kid in the middle of a Muggle settlement in the middle of the night, wandering around alone?
Okay, do you really think Stan Shunpike would think all that?
But what about Ernie?
Like-
What about Ernie and
yeah.
his shrunken heads? They should
Well, Ernie is
adult.
busy driving.
Ernie is keeping his eyes on the road.
Is he, though?
whatever left of the vision that he has. We don't know. They don't license drivers. He could be 150 and blind.
I mean, to be fair, even if you know the Longbottoms and know what's happened to them, you would probably very easily be able to construct a story of, oh yeah, this is their kid and he has no one left and so he's all on his own.
Right? Like, honestly, Neville should run away from home with, like, the extended family he has. Like, frankly, if Neville ends up in the middle of a Muggle town, like, needing help, makes perfect sense. No further questions.
I guess that's valid.
I have further questions.
Okay. What are they?
Dig it. You called my bluff.
Yeah, just like Stan Shunpike, we're all ears.
Yeah, well done.
All right, while Sam thinks of questions, we can move on. So, Stan tells us what the fare to London is. He says it's 11 sickles, but for 13, you get hot chocolate, and for 15, you get a hot water bottle and a toothbrush in the color of your choice. Now, because I was 9 years old when I read this book for the first time, my immediate question was, what if I want hot chocolate and a toothbrush? Like, frankly, that seems like a much more useful combo than hot water and a toothbrush. Like, I'm gonna need a toothbrush after the hot chocolate. Again, many follow-up questions.
What are they?
Well,
Why can't I have hot chocolate with my toothbrush?
That's only one question!
Why doesn't the night bus care about dental hygiene? What would Hermione's parents say?
To our knowledge, no one in the wizarding world cares about dental hygiene.
They could just
That's
magic
true.
their teeth back together.
I think if it's 15, you get all three, is how I read it.
That's
Like-
how I read it, too.
So for 13, you get the hot chocolate, and then for 15, you get the hot chocolate and the hot water bottle and the toothbrush. My follow-up question is, all those things are very, like, nighttime trip oriented. Like, the hot water bottle goes in the bottom of your bed to keep you warm. The toothbrush, like, before you go to sleep. And the hot chocolate because it's cold at night. So when we see the night bus again and it's just chairs, what are these extra amenities that they're offering? I need to know.
Well, I definitely think they'll offer, like, you know, some kind of sandwich. You know, and for 15, you get afternoon tea on the night bus, and it
Oh,
spills
please.
all over.
Oh, God.
Oh my god.
I mean, this is England. It'll definitely have a cup of tea.
Right? Has to.
I need the Warner Brothers studio lot tour to now build a night bus where you can have afternoon tea on, like, and you have to go to a different seat for each floor, just like with the tea trays. So, like, you start
that
on the
would be
first level of the
great.
bus. Yeah. Cool. Hire me, Warner Brothers. Also, I'm going to show my Americanness here. I had no idea that a water bottle, like a hot water bottle, is something that you put at the bottom of your bed to keep it warm. I just was like, cool, hot water. It's more expensive than hot chocolate for some reason. Don't know why.
Let me tell you, as someone who's moved to the UK, the people here are weirdly obsessed with the hot water bottles. Like, it's
really are.
like one of my colleagues did gift me one because she was incensed I didn't own one. I was like, but what will I use it for?
Wait, really? I assumed that was like an old-timey thing.
No, it's still very much a thing. I have colleagues who sometimes in the winter walk around with a hot water bottle because they're cold. Mm-hmm. In the office, it's just a thing.
See, we used to have, because I grew up in New England and we collected old New England-y type of things. We used to have like the bed warmers that you would put coals in from the fire and then you would put in the bed to sort of warm things up. We had one of those. We never used it. It was just an antique. So I really assumed that practice was over. The idea of like putting something in your bed to warm it up, other than like a spouse, like go get in the bed. I want it to be warm when I get in there, which is a mean thing to do, and you shouldn't do it, but it happens. So I just assumed that it was an old timey thing, but it's crazy that people are still doing like hot water in the bed in a container.
Yeah.
What happens if you kick it open? And then there's just
It doesn't.
you're soaking yourself in boiling water.
It's very well sealed.
Yeah. And they have like a soft, plushy thing usually around them. So it's almost like a warm pillow or something.
Is it a cozy?
Yeah.
Wait, you said plushy, and now I need to know, can you get like a squishy unicorn wrapped around it, or a Pikachu?
Honestly, probably.
Yeah.
Or a Norbert. Or Norberta.
I'm sure
the
at
Wizarding
like,
World.
the studio tour in England, yes, you can.
I don't think that you can yet, but they should definitely get on that.
Warner Brothers, can you start making Golden Snidget plushies for the hot water bottles, please?
I would buy 40 of them.
The Snidget and the Pygmy Puffs. Those are the two that you need to start with.
I want a Niffler, okay?
Yes.
Oh my god,
Also
yes. That. I will buy... I'm the Fry meme from Futurama. Shut up and take my money.
Yes.
I am right behind you, potentially pushing you out of the way.
Your child is just on the ground as we fight.
I've pushed her forward with the money. Nobody can refuse an adorable small child.
An adorable small child. Shut up and take her money while I fight this man.
Exactly.
So the only other thing I could think of would potentially be useful is a newspaper in the morning, sort of thinking of what would you want in the mornings, like a cup of tea and a newspaper. So then I was like, ooh, they could have like a collaboration with either the Daily Prophet or maybe the Quibbler, because the Quibbler almost seems more to be their speed. But
oh my god, yes.
Hell yeah.
I wonder if you could do like on one of the floors, like they do like writer nights where you sit down and somebody's reading like slam poetry up above, or if they do movie nights where everyone's in recliner chairs and they're projecting on the ceiling of the night bus. Like there's so much cool stuff you can do in this moving vehicle.
Yes. It's not just for getting you from A to B.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
You know what? As an iconic songstress of our era once said, it's all about the climb.
Do you think that, this is a total tangent, do you think that Harry and Ginny watched Lord of the Rings and were just like, haha, their idea of magic is so weird?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you for the and yes. We'll never be on an improv team together ever again.
That was my experience.
Yeah, I cannot imagine a witch and, like, someone who, was in the Wizarding World from age 11 wanting to sit through Lord of the Rings. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
That is, like, some Muggle nonsense when you have too much time on your hands.
Also, like...
I wonder if they were Star Wars fans then. Sorry, go ahead, Sierra.
Oh, no. That's a valid question. But my bigger question is more... I don't really feel like they watch TV or movies at all. Like, they only talk about having radios and they listen to radio programs, but they don't. And I want to say that at some point they tried to have like a television program, but then they were worried that Muggles would randomly tune in and like see where's it being broadcast.
I think that's actually in the auxiliary supplemental materials. Yeah.
So I mean, I just feel like, why would they bother? I mean, there's kind of like a disdain for appropriating Muggle things unless you're Arthur. So, like, why would they even watch movies to begin with? Which then makes me think of, what the heck do they do all the time? Because we know that not all of them read. So, like,
they play wizard chess.
Wizard chess and listen
Godstones.
to Celestina Warbeck. But okay, no one can tell me that Ginny Weasley would not be rocking at Mario Kart on the 64.
She would. Yeah, okay. No arguments there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure her and Harry have you know how everyone does like cell phone retreats these days and internet retreat these days? They have like a Muggle not a Muggle retreat, but a wizarding retreat where they have like a cabin up near Hogwarts, not near Hogwarts, but up in Scotland somewhere. And they just go and have like no magic time.
I mean, for that, you wouldn't need like a cabin. You could just like rent an apartment in London.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that.
Airbnb before Airbnb.
But back to the night bus. So they offer the toothbrush, the hot water, hot chocolate. Here's what I don't understand. Why is no one offering Harry a Band-Aid? Like, because his hand is bloody, and like smarting from like landing on the ground throughout all of this. And like, no one is just like, oh, you want to like mop that up? You want to wash your hands? No, we're just going to let the blood like, crust all over your like, messed up palms. Okay.
First of all, it's Stan Shunpike. And second of all, you all told me that Ernie has no sight and that whatever left it is that he has is on the road. So of course no one's offering him a Band-Aid.
Stan is way too excited.
Well, that's because Fudge can't be bothered with anything. And what is he going to do? Just spit out some chocolate and paste it over his hand and be like, it'll be better in 42 hours. So it doesn't
also, by the time he gets there, it's been a full night. Like, at that point, his hand is no longer, like, actively bleeding all over the sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Unless his mother's magic, which is very helpful against Voldy, just hemorrhages and open wounds.
Or maybe Stan wanted that, blood magic to protect the night bus from Voldy, and that's why he just let Harry bleed all over the place.
Or Stan is actually a Death Eater and just wants Harry to die slowly from an infection.
It's a lot of good theories here.
A lot of great theories.
So there is the Daily Prophet's article about Sirius that we get to read. And there's a lot of fun stuff to pick apart in this article. One of the turns of phrase that I really liked is the Daily Prophet feels the need to explain what guns are. So they describe them as, quote, a kind of metal wand that Muggles use to kill each other. Which, yeah, like...
Yep.
They're not wrong. I remember I really liked that descriptor the first time I read it, and I still really do. And I'm wondering, like, do you think guns are, like, even more alien to British wizards, considering, like, Britain doesn't have the gun culture we do?
I mean, no. Yeah. Let me, the way of describing this, I think it's particularly different for me being raised in Germany because Germany is even more removed from it. So, so I've been to other countries in Europe where you see guns much more than you would in Germany, or there'd be like, guards in like Brussels, for example, where they have like heavily armed guards and there's like tanks on the streets because this is where the most important people of the EU meet and stuff like that. And that is not something I'm used to seeing, and it was a bit freaky for me. But where I live now in England, they're still hunting with guns. Like they go out and hunt pheasants with like dogs and guns and stuff. So like when I go for my walks here during hunting season, I smell gunpowder everywhere and I see people walking around with guns. So I'm like, okay, this is still a thing in certain circles in the UK where hunting is just a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, how the British people and American people had very different reactions to the Voldemort hug in Deathly Hallows Part 2. So,
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Who liked it?
Tom Felton... Well, no, I'm not saying anybody liked it. I'm saying Tom Felton says, in the United States, most people, like, laughed uncomfortably and thought it was, like, weirdly funny and out of place. In the UK, he said people had a very, like, they were creeped out by it. They thought it was, like, a pretty scary thing that happened. And they didn't laugh. And I wonder if the same thing is true in a line like this. Because I remember reading that and being like, haha, that's a funny way to say it, and moved on. But I wonder if there's sort of, like, a different emotional notes being hit for people who aren't around guns nearly as much as... someone from rural New Hampshire might be.
Yeah.
I say rural New Hampshire, but everyone in New Hampshire knows that that's just the same word.
Yeah, because, like, Aureo, I'm not saying that, like, the Brits don't know what guns are, but I think, especially if you're wizards, right, and you're fairly insulated from Muggle society, I guess, like, sort of guns aren't as ubiquitous outside of hunting season, apparently, as they would be, you know, like somewhere like Texas.
Yeah, I completely understand why it is explained. I would probably argue that most wizards who haven't either been raised in a Muggle family or know someone in the Muggle family really well would probably have no idea. But in Muggle Britain, everyone definitely knows what a gun is. Also, like, crime shows are like the number one type of shows here, so they're on TV all the time.
Right, but as we've said, wizards don't watch television.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting. I'm just sort of continuing to think about it, because the royal family presumably exists in the wizarding world to a degree as well. Like, they must be aware of it. And there are guards outside there with guns.
Oh, that's true. And I'm guessing the wizards, since they don't watch television, did not watch the coronation last week.
Well, I didn't either, so...
No, I did. Me and my friend had a party. We, like, woke up at 4:30. We had scones and made finger sandwiches. It was a lot of fun.
Whereas everyone here was sort of disgusted by it.
Yeah. Well, especially with Britain's economy not doing that well, and then there's this giant show of royalty. My favorite commentary that came out of that was John Cleese, who, of course, played Nicholas Head Nick. Yep, that's the word. Nearly Head Nick. He said he was watching the television and couldn't stop laughing because he was like, this is a Monty Python skit. The whole coronation.
I mean,
Monty Python skit.
Yeah, little bit.
It's a lot of razzle dazzle.
But it does make me wonder now, in a world where the royal family also exists for, you know, or the wizards are aware of them, like...
Oh, for sure.
Surely there should be informed to some sort of degree about something.
A liaison.
Well, I think the prime minister would probably inform the queen, like, whenever he meets with the minister of magic. Like, maybe he's the go-between.
That makes
That's
sense.
a good question. I mean, the prime minister and the queen meet on a fairly regular basis, so...
Yeah, every week.
Every week on a Tuesday, I believe.
Yes.
So, if the prime minister is informed of things happening, you would assume that they would have to share it with the queen as well.
So in the other minister...
Or I guess king.
In the other minister, Cornelius Fudge, during the flashbacks with the actual prime minister, Cornelius Fudge tells him, like, you know, I know you won't tell anybody why, because no one will ever believe you, but you've got to think that the royal family would know that wizards exist, because before there was the constitutional... Like, the Windsor line goes back to when the monarchy had all the power, not just a constitutional monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you would think that, you know, Queen Elizabeth, God rest her soul, would have been like, hey, how's that Fudgy dude doing? I didn't like him nearly as much as Barty Crouch Sr.
Right.
Shame what happened to his son. Like...
Yeah.
I have to imagine she's up on the hot goss from the wizarding world.
I need Olivia Colman to bring that into character, though.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
How many ministers of magic did Queen Elizabeth meet? Hold on, I'm looking this up.
Ooh.
Because she was, 15 prime ministers?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, right?
So looking up at the list of ministers of magic, so she became queen in 1952 under Wilhelmina Tuft.
Gross.
So... Wilhelmina Tuft, Ignatius Tuft, Nobby Leach, Eugenia Jenkins, Harold Mincham, Millicent Bagnold, Fudge, Scrimgeour, Thickness, and Kingsley Shacklebolt. So assuming Kingsley Shacklebolt was minister for like 25 years.
2023, yeah.
Yeah, then that makes 10.
Wait, no, Hermione Granger. Because it's 19 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, but except none of us acknowledge Cursed Child, so Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Okay. And maybe Hermione dreams in the Queen's own fan fiction.
Yes. Okay, anyway, right. So the article that we were talking about. Wow, that got away from us. So they mention a massacre like that of 12 years ago when Black murdered 13 people with a single curse. And I think there's a lot to unpack about this. So it's the first time that it's introduced, like the, you know, big blast, kill 13 people, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually very effective at making Sirius very scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, rather than just be like, he's a bad dude. Be like, no, he killed 13 people like that one time. Mm-hmm. The irony is that, like, this crime is, like, it's a legendary crime, and it makes Sirius the most infamous prisoner in Azkaban. You know, like, Sirius is a bigger deal in Azkaban than Bellatrix, than the Azkaban 10, like, than all of them. And it's ironic that this epic crime that is the most infamous ever was committed by Peter Pettigrew.
But, like, okay, I know that Barty Crouch Senior at the time is on, like, his big power trip, and he's sending Sirius to prison, and everyone's just sort of like, Lily and James, even though we don't really ever understand why everybody seems to love Lily and James, other than maybe it's just that they're 21 years old and have a kid, and the whole wizarding community gets behind them for that. But, like, how do they not just be like, hey, Sirius, hey, is this your wand? Great. Priori incantatum. Lovely. You didn't do this. That's cool. Peter did? Oh, he's a rat. Neat. Cool. Do you mind taking some Veritaserum? Are you good at occlumency? No? Great. Like, how hard is that?
That's all very valid. I mean, like, especially in Goblet, they're at the Quidditch World Cup. They use Priori Incantatum immediately, just after the Dark Mark is shot into the sky.
And Harry still doesn't get arrested. Like, it came from his wand, and they're still like, you know what? Harry Potter chosen one? Probably not him.
Yeah. You dropped it over there? Okay. Like...
Yep, makes sense.
But that's the thing. Like, you could be using a different wand. You could be using wandless magic. Like, they don't know the ins and outs of, like, the dark magic Sirius knows under Voldemort's tutelage. Like, he could have done it wandless.
That's true.
I think this is something, again, where it's showing that they need to learn more about Muggles and Muggle lives. Because, like, gas pipes and that sort of stuff should be something they should be aware of. Because what happens in a scenario where, you know, someone walks down the street with their kid steals their wand and waves around and, you know, hits by accident something like a gas pipe?
Wait, Aureo, he didn't actually hit a gas pipe. Like, that's the story they told the Muggles.
But he still didn't actually kill 13 people with a blast of magic.
No, he did. Like, that's what happened.
So... Okay,
I was under the impression that Peter Pettigrew blows up the street underneath by hitting a gas pipe with magic, and that's what kills the 12 Muggles.
Yeah.
No, so he blows up the street, and like, that blast is what kills the 12 Muggles.
But it's not necessarily... Yeah. We don't know for sure.
But there's no gas pipe.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Huh. So, yeah, but to go back to Aurelia's point, like, if we got a Muggle born like Kensington, who's Sierra's child, who we've mentioned a couple of times, that just right now has, you know, dormant magic that comes out and blows up, you know, the gas pipes in Sierra's house. Like, the ministry should know that's happened once.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we see is a bit of the downfall of there is no real interaction by choice, obviously, between Muggles and wizards, but the wizards choosing to remove themselves from their life still need to be aware of what's going on in the Muggle world because they're still inhabiting it to a degree. So
my favorite part of this image, that what happens afterwards, is, you know, in all the Rockers we've got the 12 dead people. Sirius is laughing like crazy, and Peter Pettigrew cuts off his little pinky toe, transforms into a rat, and then with his mouth has to grab both the knife and the wand so that they can't pick it up. And just runs off with both things.
Yeah.
Just in his mouth, in his little rat mouth.
In his little rat mouth. Has to run into the sewers with his wand and his knife so that they can't see any of this stuff.
So, I mean, that is a question in general I have around animagos. Like, what do you keep with you and what do you know, like, do you keep your clothes? Do you not keep your clothes? Would you keep your wand because it's sort of part of you?
The movies don't answer this. Because, like, at one point, Sirius transforms and he's fully clothed. And then at another point, in Order of the Phoenix, he transforms and then conveniently has a dog fur robe in the station for him to put on.
I'd like to think that is just him being extra, and he just had the dog fur robe
on when he transformed that morning.
He transformed to begin with.
That is very Sirius Black.
Yes.
I mean, we can assume that they keep their clothes because McGonagall shows her animagus form in front of a full class of students.
Oh, could you imagine if they didn't, though?
But that is, I always assumed their wand sort of goes with them into their animal form, and, they have it back when they transform back into their human form. But
Same.
I guess we don't really have an official answer.
Well, because you need your wand to transform into the animal. And a lot of animals can't just hold wands after the transformation. So yeah, I think your body plus wand becomes the animal.
Well, and then in this movie adaptation, Peter Pettigrew uses the wand and then drops the wand and his clothes when he runs off, which is just all sorts of not continuity.
Right.
Yeah, that's nonsense. That's movie nonsense.
Movie nonsense indeed.
Yeah. Though, to your point, he may not have his own wand in his mouth, but he definitely has Voldemort's wand in his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Ew. Oh, God. Oh, I so regret saying that sentence in that way.
Someone has to milk Nagini.
So, Jeff, this is the part that we want you to clip for the socials.
Yeah, for real.
I can't think of another way to say it. He does have Voldemort's wand in his mouth.
I mean, he is the
he
servant.
He just does.
He gives his right hand and everything for him.
Oh.
What a shame.
Okay, no.
Right,
I refuse to pursue this further. Okay, the mass murder thing.
Yes.
So I found it interesting that the fact that he killed 13 people in one go, that it's such a thing, it really drives home the point that mass murder is so not a thing in the wizarding world. In fact, I think this might be the only one we hear of. And we sort of get small, bits and pieces reinforcing it throughout the text. I remember in, Order of the Phoenix, when they're talking about what the weapon is, I think it's Ron who's maybe it's a way to kill loads of people all at once. Cause they don't have a way to do that really readily available. And for the big muggle killings, they're all outsourced to giants, cause, we believe in outsourcing in the wizarding world. And I think it makes sense because, the wizarding world, it's a very small society, and when you're dealing with people, people can teleport and that kind of thing. So, yeah, mass murdery type spells really aren't going to be your go-to when you're, dueling in tight quarters with, 5 of your friends, 5 of their friends. So I just found it interesting, sort of that aspect of the wizarding world and what makes this so noteworthy.
It is especially interesting considering 2 World War happened already. And we can at least presume that the wizarding world didn't live under that big of a rock that they weren't aware that had happened. So bombs have been dropped on London, nuclear bombs exist at this point. So it's almost mind-boggling that no one was like, oh shit, the Muggles have means of, mass destroying quite a lot of people, and we are still dueling one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of alluded to in the Fantastic Beasts series as well. That's Grindelwald's sort of anti-Muggle warmongering is based off of showing visions of another war and these huge weapons of mass destruction. So they definitely know about them, but it is interesting. I think this is some phenomenal analysis you've done, Irvin, to go in and be like, this doesn't really exist in the wizarding world, and we can see it in text. Yeah.
Well, because wizard dueling is focused on dueling other wizards.
Yeah.
And for that, one-on-one is still, the way to go. If, it became a wizards versus muggles thing, I think the parameters would change a lot.
Yeah. Fascinating. Can't wait for the, sci-fi mixed with wizard future series that will be written in 2044 about the future wizarding versus Muggle war when the Statute of Secrecy is taken away.
It has to happen eventually.
Star Trek versus Harry Potter. Yeah. And they'll run out of other ideas.
I mean, honestly, like, I think that could be, like, a really interesting story. Sort of, 50 years after the Harry Voldemort thing, they're like, all right, this statute of secrecy thing, it's not working out for us. Like, let's undo it.
Yeah. I feel like that is the unnatural progression to go with a future story in Harry Potter, is the attempt to reintegrate into the real world.
Yes. But, only if we can stop rehashing Harry and Voldemort for 5 minutes.
That's never going to happen. New HBO series.
And the other thing about this massacre is that 13 people were killed in it. And so there's a lot of, 13 people and dying combined in Prisoner of Azkaban. The one that immediately came to mind is Trelawney, when 13 dine, the first to rise is the first to die. That whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is it because, it's book 3, so 13? Is it because 13 is, known to be an unlucky number, and that's what we're going for? Is it both?
Harry is 13 throughout the whole book.
Oh, that's also true.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
So I always thought, because this is the book where we're introduced to Trelawney and to divination, that this is sort of the whole superstitions get added to the world we now know a little bit. And there's the whole, is it true or is it not true? Is divination a real thing? And you have this whole Trelawney, often making stuff up, and Hermione discrediting her and McGonagall discrediting her. So there's a whole theme that sort of starts off, how much do we pay attention to divination and superstitions?
Mm-hmm.
With even the Grimm added to the mix as well.
Honestly, maybe that's the problem. Maybe the fact that it was 12 Muggles, so as soon as one person joined them, it would be an unlucky group. That's the thing, you should always travel in far smaller groups than 13 to avoid death.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what else is rude? Laughing after massacring 13 people.
Wait. That is rude, but so is also laughing after 13 people have been massacred by somebody you loved.
Also very true. So we can agree that either way, Sirius Black is rude.
It's rude.
I also feel like, I don't know. I'm kind of on the side of it was either made up that he didn't really laugh, or that he didn't really know what had happened and just felt triumph over defeating, almost like a relieved laughter. Okay, I've accomplished something. I have, respected their memory in some way. I've gotten their revenge for them. Something if you've gone through something really terrible, sometimes you just have to laugh afterwards because it's the only way that your emotional release can happen. And so it's your body doesn't know what to do. And it's I guess I'll laugh because there's no real response for this. But I feel like it was probably exaggerated.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Both what the text suggests and Joe in an interview said that no, he did actually laugh. Yes, what do you say about just you've had a day and all you can do is laugh? Mm-hmm. But he definitely was laughing. Mm-hmm. And also he definitely was aware that Pettigrew was still alive and not defeated.
Yeah. I always read it as, he lost his best friend. He's the only one who knows that it's Peter. He's on this manic quest to get Peter. And, Peter manages to escape him and frame him. And at this moment, he's already driven by grief and anger. And now he's lost again. And this is just all the tension leaving him. And this is the only response left.
Yeah. There's a great, quote from an interview with Joe, on the topic. Right after Half-Blood Prince was released, Emerson Sparks and Melissa Nelly did an interview with Joe, and Emerson asked about this. So Emerson asked, when Sirius was framed for the death of Pettigrew and the Muggles, did he actually laugh or was that something made up to make him look insane? And Joe responded, did he actually laugh? Yes, I would say he did. Well, he did because I've created him. Sirius, to me, he's kind of on the edge. Do you not get that feeling from Sirius? He's a little bit of a loose cannon. The laughter, he was absolutely unhinged by James's death. Harry and Sirius were very similar in the way that both of them were craving family connections with friends. So Sirius with James wanted a brother, and Harry has nominated Ron and Hermione as his family. Sirius was unhinged. Yes, he laughed. He knew what he'd lost. It was a humorless laugh. Pettigrew, who they, in a slightly patronizing way, James and Sirius at least, who they allowed to hang around with them, it turned out that he was a better wizard than they knew. Turned out he was better at hiding secrets than they knew.
So this last point is whenever they decide to do a Marauders series, whether or not Rowling's involved or if Warner Brothers just makes it or it's a television, books, doesn't matter. However this story ends up being told, I think one of the big things that we need to see is how Peter is mistreated and why he makes that decision to betray them. What is patronizing about them? What creates this willingness to kill people who you've been supposedly friends with for the last 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Much like, and I feel like it will be done much the same as for anybody who's watched Ted Lasso. There's an assistant coach there that in season 2 they do a little bit of the storyline with.
I feel like, well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what gets him to that point. Because if he's actually supposed to have loved and cared for them all these years, it does seem difficult to believe that, you know, he would just kind of give up on everything just because he thought all hope was lost and he wanted to choose the winning side. So it's like that can only excuse so much of it. So yeah, I would really be interested to see like what other things really went into his decision to choose what he thought was going to be the winning side.
Mm-hmm.
My headcanon is, you know, he's got these friends, but they're not treating him great. And Fabian and Gabian Pruitt see how James and Sirius are sort of mistreating Peter, and they take him under his wing. And so Peter's becoming good friends with these guys, and then they're horribly murdered. And that's the thing that makes him go, no. That's totally just made up in my head, but that's the way I want it to happen.
Yeah. I feel like that wouldn't work, though, because they would have been brutally murdered by the side that he joins.
Correct. And that's the side that's the winning side.
Yeah, but, well, so he's, like, scared that the same thing's going to happen to him? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is a coward, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like Pettigrew's cowardice, and survival instinct, does serve to explain it. I don't really think you need further excuses at that point. I think he's a cowardly little
But I think that the fact that Sirius and James are not uplifting and helping Peter grow out of this cowardice, and that they're being patronizing, as the author says, because they're being patronizing, this is going to be a key point in his character development. Not the thing that makes him decide, but these little moments that we see, I think, are going to be exceptionally important into building out his character. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Whoever's going to make this show, hire us as consultants. We got this.
But I think Joe always does a good job with these moments of just showing when you've, totally just had enough, lost it, are out of it. Because it reminds me of the scene near the end of Deathly Hallows where Harry, Ron, and Hermione, jump off the dragon and, jump into a lake, and then they just, spend a minute just laughing because, what else are you gonna do? Just like Aureo said, that, release of tension, I think Joe captures that so well in these moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it also, the way that it's always described before you actually understand Sirius, I think just really, it's a great moment that serves both functions. It shows him as this, crazed, maniacal killer before you understand everything that he's gone through. And then you read back and you go, oh my goodness, he just had nothing else to do. So he had to laugh about it because all of these crazy things have happened, and he really has lost it, but not in a, I'm going to go murder 12 people way.
Yeah.
You see it from the other side. But yeah, I like how so many of the things that she writes, you read it one way, the way that it's meant to be in the story that feeds the current story that you're in. But then as a whole, when you go back, then you can read the exact same passage and understand 10 times more of what the actual emotionality is behind it.
Yeah. That's why we do what we do here.
Exactly.
So, on a lighter note, with far less murder, let's get back to the night bus and all the places it's going. Because, so, all the places it goes in this book begin with the letter A. Because apparently the night bus's route is alliterative rather than geographically sensible. And so, of the towns that are mentioned, a commenter over on the Harry Potter Companion, way back in the day, actually had a really good analysis of this. So the commenter is called Andrea, and she wrote, "Concerning all the towns that begin with the letter A that are visited by the night bus, I wonder if Rowling chose these locations due to their historical incidences of witchcraft. A quick Google search shows Abergavenny, and I apologize for the pronunciation, which is in Wales. In 1827, Mary Nicholas, a woman over 90 years of age, was assaulted by a mob after being accused of being a witch. In Anglesey, also in Wales, it's an island off the north coast of Wales, which was a major druidic center at the peak of Celtic domination in Britain. The small village of, Landana that's an awful lot of consonants. The small village of, let's say, Landana on the Isle of Anglesey in Wales is famous for its tales about witches. Aberdeen in Scotland, the Aberdeen witch hunt has been called Scotland's answer to the Salem witch trials. So, Andrea continues, maybe Rowling had a book of places known for witchcraft in Britain and started in the A section. Or maybe these details are just coincidence. Maybe Jo just chose to have the bus stop in towns that begin with A to add alliteration and tie together the ridiculous route the night bus travels, taking Harry to Wales and northern Scotland and who knows what other places before dropping him off in London. So I thought that was great analysis, but also that set Aureo off on a whole research spiral. So what all have you gleaned?
Sorry.
I open the doc, suddenly there's maps, there's diagrams.
Yes. So I looked at this and I was like, interesting, because it's 2 places in Wales and 1 place in Scotland, but until we drop off Harry in London, no place in England. So I was like, ooh, what's the significance there? And I'm sorry, this is me pretty much guessing. This is just a theory I'm throwing out. But in like history of Britain, going back to the Romans and when Romans, conquered parts of the British, islands, they, at first were only in the south of England. And I think, I'm assuming most of you have probably heard of Hadrian's Wall, and are maybe loosely familiar with the history of the then Scottish people, which I believe are the Picts. And they, the Romans always struggled with them and never really truly conquered Scotland. They attempted a few times, but then eventually just built a wall and was like, let's keep those wild tattooed people out of here. Because the Picts were tattooed, which is why they are called the Picts. So they...
Wait, the Picts what?
They were tattooed. So pic from picture.
Oh, tattooed. Okay, sorry.
So, that's sort of what I could see with Scotland. And then I was like, oh, I know that there were Roman settlements in Wales because I've visited some, in the south near sort of Cardiff. There are some. So I looked into it and wondered if they went all the way up to North Wales, and they sort of conquered Wales to a degree, but they haven't settled there. Like the Romans were never properly settled there. They just sort of conquered it and were like, yeah, you're just now part of our empire. And the Welsh people were sort of like, oh, the Romans are bringing us hygiene and cool new products and we can trade with them. And this is actually improving our lives. So they sort of tolerated it. But in return, the Romans sort of tolerated that they still kept with some of their tribal, beliefs. So it was sort of like a give and take situation. So that is sort of why I could see that maybe it is significant that we're only going to places that are not in England. But again, this is just me guessing, so I may be wrong. It could also be that, Rowling now lives in Scotland and she grew up next to the border to Wales, and maybe Wales is just, important to her personally. I don't know.
That is so cool. Like, I love that.
I also love this.
The night bus. The night bus doesn't like Romans, is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I'm going to prioritize all the places where the Romans hadn't settled, and then we'll drop Harry off in London if he insists.
So essentially, the night bus can't go to most of Europe because there were Romans there.
No, it can. It just chooses not to.
On a more in fiction note, do we think that the night bus just drops people off in the order that they get picked up?
Yes.
Presumably, yes.
Because they wait for Harry because he's the last one on and then he's the last one off.
It's also surprising that nobody else gets on after him.
It's too late. Everyone's asleep. Wizards need their sleep. They got all that magic zooming around their body.
Yeah, don't get Irvin started about the nightlife in Britain.
Oh my god, I cannot even... Because actually they apparently cannot even.
Yes.
Though, I've noticed this now, but, it's a really long night for Harry, because, the sun is coming up, at the end of the chapter, and it's like, oh, Harry was, on an all-night adventure with the night bus.
One crazy night followed by 2 weeks of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he talks about how people, person after person comes down from the upstairs rooms in various states of sleepy undress and all depart. I also wonder how many others get sick on the night bus. What's her name? I'm blanking.
What's her sickness?
Madam Marsh?
Yes, Madam Marsh. Because it seems like
poor Madam Marsh.
She's the only one that they mention is feeling ill, and they don't mention anybody else. Everybody else just kind of comes down and it's fine. But I wonder if
no, they do mention that everyone else seems very relieved to get off the bus.
Yeah, that's right.
I also was wondering if that Madame Marsh comment was some sort of implied alcohol problem. Why are they picking her up in the dead of night and dropping her off at home? Was he just getting drunk in London and now
Meg,
back
can you
home?
imagine doing a solo pub crawl on the night bus?
Or maybe she just was out with all her friends in London and she's the last one still on the bus. Or
Yeah, Madam Marsh knows how to party. No, that's why she has to take the night bus, because there's no nightlife in Britain. So Madam Marsh, went off to party, on the mainland. And then now she has to, go back to her home in Aberdeen or wherever it is.
Yeah.
so she went to party in France and is now on the way back.
Yes, that's what it is.
There we go.
Madam Marsh gets around.
We solved it.
It's so funny.
that's the title.
Yes.
Madam Marsh needs to party.
So I thought there were a few, interesting bits of how Harry is, slowly acclimating to the wizarding world. Because when he's chatting with Stan and Ernie, he says Voldemort without thinking in this chapter. And it's it's a whole thing. And I really love Harry's journey of, first he learns Voldemort's name, then he learns not to say it, and then he chooses to say it, but as, a deliberate choice. Mm-hmm. And, it's such a good journey. And this part isn't relevant to Harry's journey, but I just have to say, Stan Shunpike is such a drama queen, and I am so here for it. Because when Harry says Voldemort, he's like, oh my god, my heart's still going that fast. And he's like, okay, sorry, but about Sirius Black. And then Stan is still, rubbing his chest from, the heart attack he just had.
I mean, this is still probably the reason why later on Harry's this dude never ever joined Voldemort.
Because he had a heart attack when he heard the name.
At 18.
At 18. I love Stan.
You Stan.
Harry's also still working out, what a big deal he is in the wizarding world. 'Cause, like, he runs into the Minister of Magic. Like, and the Minister of Magic is personally escorting him to the Leaky Cauldron from the night bus. And he's like, oh, you know, it's the Minister of Magic because of the serious crime I just committed. And not like, oh no, it's the Minister of Magic because literally everyone in the government is concerned about my well-being.
Yep.
It takes him, like, the full conversation, and only afterwards is he like, oh, it's weird that Fudge is involved with underage magic, isn't it?
I also think, at least thinking back to my life as a 13-year-old, you're probably just about starting to get maybe a bit interested in politics, and you're not really fully figured out the whole picture yet. So this could also be Harry just being like, this guy is the minister, this means something, but I don't really fully understand what that means.
Right, like, we know he's important, we know I'm important, the relative importance here is unclear.
Exactly. Like, please sign my permission slip.
Oh my god, like, that was ballsy as Like, just, hi, Minister of Magic, oh, you're not gonna throw me into Azkaban? Can you let me go on a field trip? Like, damn, boy.
Listen, the opposite of jail is more freedom. So, sign here.
That's an interesting outlook for sure.
I also thought it was interesting that it is described here when that, like, he's like, there you are, Harry, and then he's like holding on to Harry. It's like, and like it says like Fudge, who still hadn't let go of Harry, who's just like firmly steering him about. And I'm just like, Fudge is like, oh no, one wizard on the loose is more than enough. I just like, I'm gonna hold on to you.
Yeah, I don't need a runaway teenager messiah as well.
I need that as a Wizard Rock song. Runaway teenager wizard messiah.
And also, this is such a typical thing for especially children to still see the world in so much more black and white and not, like everything has to be right or wrong. There's no sort of gray. And, it's described that Harry's past dealings with the ministry when it came to using of magic, he had been, told off for when it wasn't him. So he's like, but I need to be punished. And Fudge is like, surely you don't want to be punished. And he's like, well, but last time. And it's just, quite interesting to see that he still has to learn that lessons that A, corruption is a thing, and B, the world doesn't operate in black and whites, or good people and Death Eaters, to use that quote.
Yeah. I think it's more the fact that Harry is still A, young enough, and B, new enough to the wizarding world that he doesn't grasp, like, the scale of, like, punishments and that there are things that are, like, bad and more bad. He's like, well, I broke the rules, so clearly I'm going to Azkaban. There's no sort of, like, I broke a small rule, so maybe I'll get a small punishment. No, it's like, well, it's either all good or imprisonment for life.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, like, he hasn't learned any other methods of punishment in the wizarding world. I mean, like, Hagrid goes there as a precaution just a few months ago, and, like... And that's just, they don't have any proof, they're just sticking him there just in case. And so he doesn't really know, anything else. And so, of course, he would think, oh, I blew up my aunt, maybe that does land me there, because it's it's just as terrible. It also, like, I mean, I think it just also builds up.
Is it just as terrible?
No, well,
like, Hagrid was accused of murdering people.
Yes, in Harry's mind, it absolutely is. And I think it's interesting. I'll touch about, like, PTSD that Harry does or does not hold on to from Chamber of Secrets, but it is interesting that, like, pretty much the only instance of him actually thinking about the events in Chamber of Secrets in this book is being like, oh man, when Dobby did that hovering charm, they sent me a letter, they're gonna destroy my wand, I better run out of here, I better leave, they're gonna come get me. Like, they're gonna expel me because I used magic again, just like they told me in the last one. And so he books it out of there because, he did a hovering charm, and now he's actually blown up his aunt. That's way worse than a house elf doing a hovering charm.
Yeah. But there's also this amazing line. He, Harry, had broken wizard law just like Sirius Black. You're like, oh, my sweet summer child. Maybe not quite like Sirius Black.
No. In fact, he did more than Sirius Black.
That's true.
I mean, that's true. He blew up one person. Sirius blew up 13.
Not really. It was Peter.
Yeah.
So in fact, Harry has been more of a criminal than Sirius.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so Harry has blown up more people than Sirius Black.
Yep. Well done.
That we know of.
That we know of. Yeah. Sirius could be blowing up lots of people.
I don't put anything past my guy.
Speaking of blowing up, Stan has a choice line about this, according to Irvin.
No. Ernie actually has this really good line where I'd blow myself up before I set foot in that place, talking about Azkaban. And I was amused that, like, it's Ernie and Stan who are talking about how horrible Azkaban is, and then Stan actually ends up there. Like, foreshadowing. But also foreshadowing that I wanted to run by you guys. So the text here says that Sirius looks like a vampire. So is this like an ironic foreshadowing? Because we don't meet vampires, but we definitely meet werewolves, and those two do sometimes go together.
Stop it. No.
Sam, I think you're totally down with this and want to yes and my comment.
Yeah, our improv team is dead on the water. Dead on its feet, according to Fudge. Listen, Irvin, you know this about me. I want no speak of vampires and werewolves going together. There's no literature in the world that puts them together, especially not lit, that got turned into movies that explore the stupid pairing of human wolves and human that eat humans and also glitter. Like, nope. There's none of that. I will not have it. It won't happen. It doesn't exist. They don't go together. Move on.
Wait, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that werewolves and vampires, like, went together in mythology and folklore, like, before any of them started together.
Right up until 2008, my guy, you were absolutely right. And since then, it's just everything's been destroyed. I went into the great library of Alexandria and I burned it all.
Cedric had to do something after he died.
Glitter.
Yeah.
Wait, that's true. And wait, you're right. Because here it says that Sirius looks like a vampire, and this is the book we meet Cedric, who will be a vampire. It is foreshadowing.
Thank the Lord that Doctor Who tried to stop all of this before it started.
Yes. And now he's coming back for the 60th.
But also foreshadowing. So going back to actually what we were talking about in the last chapter episode and, our commenter's quest for the ultimate chapter of foreshadowing, we talked a lot before about how Joe is really good at, like, dropping names and then introducing who they are to us.
Yeah.
Here, in this chapter, she does a lot of the opposite, in fact, where she talks a lot about sort of, like, what happened and with whom without giving us the names, to sort of introduce us to what happened, and then the big reveal is, wait, that was so-and-so? So, for example, in this chapter, we hear about both Pettigrew and Fudge's roles in Sirius's downfall. Pettigrew was the, quote, wizard who was blown up with the 12 Muggles, and Fudge is one of the wizards who were on the scene afterwards. But we don't know that it's them. We don't know their names. It's just Joe sort of gently introducing this stuff. And I think it's excellently done from, like, a mystery writing standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that whole mystery writing element. Also how she continues to just refer to them as the Azkaban guards instead of talking about how they're Dementors or any other description. And so up until this point, I don't know about anybody else, but I was just imagining people who guarded Azkaban, just like a prison guard. And so then when you get the train reveal of, the Dementors that are these terrifying creatures instead of, humans, it's just another example of her introducing the idea of these are something, people to be feared, and, they give you the creeps and things like that, but we don't actually really know much about them until we actually see them on the page. It makes the reveal on the train even, more terrifying, because up until this point, we're kind of just expecting really imposing wizards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good call.
I think it's also a way of discrediting the use of Azkaban, if that makes sense. So, we've briefly been introduced. Hagrid has been sent there. We know it's some way of horrible place. And we know Hagrid didn't deserve it. But now the next person we're introduced to is Black, who, according to our, knowledge at this point in the book, would have deserved to be in Azkaban, and has broken out. And then by the time we actually learn what Dementors are, we experience it through Harry's experience, and it is absolutely horrifying. And then it is the whole, I think Harry even goes through this, where he's like, surely no one deserves this. Oh wait, people like Black probably deserve this. And it's like, do they though?
Well, but that's in reference to the Dementor's kiss, which is different.
But even just them being there and sucking out your happiness forever.
Well, because Harry's not opposed to people going to Azkaban. Like, he wants Pettigrew to go to Azkaban in the end of the book.
Yeah, but more so because then officially Sirius can be freed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always read that as Harry thinking that, like, imprisoning Pettigrew would be the just thing to do.
Well, I think the quote is, I don't want my dad's friends to become killers for him. And so, he wants to basically just keep Sirius and Lupin on the straight and narrow as much as possible. And also, if they take, to Jason's point, if they take Pettigrew to Azkaban, then he's proof that he's alive and that Sirius can be free. And so he's basically freeing them from current situation and then also from, like, future responsibility for what happens to Pettigrew.
Sure. I guess for me, I kind of like Harry's journey of learning to distrust the authority of the Ministry. Because I think in Prisoner of Azkaban, like, he's still like, no, you can't kill Pettigrew because we don't do this vigilante shit. The Ministry says prisoners go to Azkaban, so the right thing to do is to leave him with the authorities, who will presumably send him to Azkaban. And in Prisoner of Azkaban, that's still very much like, he thinks the grown-ups should figure this out. And then after his experience in Order of the Phoenix, then he's like, yeah, no, I don't trust the Ministry to figure their way out of a paper bag.
It is fascinating that by the end of this book, he's been privy, although not very involved, in trying to get Buckbeak freed and justice for Buckbeak. And yet, still at the end is like, yeah, the Ministry will take care of this, after having just gone through the Ministry absolutely botching it.
That's so true, though. I feel like that's just he's still a kid, and the innocence of just still relying on, well, maybe it was just those people that were in Malfoy's pocket instead of...
Yeah, exactly. Like, everybody. At that point, like, as a kid, you're assuming that, like, when the government fucks up, that, like, the times it messes up are the aberrations, not the norm. And sort of after aberration after aberration, then you're like, okay, maybe the time they got it right was the aberration.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
I love that we get all this news from the Daily Prophet, though.
Yeah. Oh, and there is one more fun bit of foreshadowing, though, where they talk about how there's never been a breakout from Azkaban before.
Yeah, thanks, Daily Prophet. You were wrong.
And it's like, yeah. So first of all, that's not true, because Crouch Jr. broke out ages ago. And second of all, we hear about an Azkaban breakout in, like, practically every book going forward. Like, we hear about Crouch Jr. in Goblet of Fire, the Azkaban 10 in Order of the Phoenix, and there's a mass breakout of Death Eaters in Deathly Hallows. So it's like, aw, this is cute that y'all think that.
I love that the mention of Azkaban that we get in Prince is Dumbledore being like, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucius is kind of grateful he's in Azkaban at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how Azkaban is, like, defanged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Later on in the series.
Which is a good thing. Right, Aurelia?
Sure.
Daily Prophet, here we go. Is it a reliable source?
In this book, the Daily Prophet kind of is a reliable source.
It's crazy! They're like an actual news organization.
Yeah, and also they are completely essential. It's a nice parallel, right? Because Harry finds out about Sirius through the Daily Prophet initially, but Sirius finds out about Wormtail, which kicks off this whole, crazy adventure through the Daily Prophet.
Through the Daily Prophet.
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing how the Daily Prophet is both reliable and essential in this book.
It is interesting. I think this book is so small, and so the Daily Prophet feels, I think, a little bit bigger. I think it's just as essential to Goblet of Fire, and especially Order of the Phoenix. I would say that it is just as relevant in Order of the Phoenix and not Deathly Hallows, but Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince.
Relevant, yes. Essential, no.
To Order of the Phoenix, I think it's essential, because we don't get some of that information about the Death Eaters being broken out and stuff without it. But yeah, it is a super heavy influence on this book in Prisoner.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm wondering, do you guys think that Joe always intended for this to be, a big reveal? It's because it is kind of like a character twist where you spent a book or two with the newspaper as, a useful source of information we read and rely on and everything. And then 2 books later, it becomes yellow and you can't trust it.
I think it has specifically to do with the type of press that Rowling has pre-Prisoner of Azkaban. Because Harry Potter's gaining steam and stuff while those books are coming out, but she signs those 3 books as a nobody, as an unknown author. When we get to Goblet of Fire, she has faced a lot of press. And so Rita glows on the page because this is something that Rowling actually knows about. She knows these types of journalists. She's been written about by these types of journalists. She's been written about by these types of people. And so I think that this is just mainly a reflection on her change of attitude towards the press, in addition to her being hit by pieces like Rita's, which is why, news just sort of serves as a functional piece and then becomes sort of integral to Rowling's distaste, which bleeds through on the page.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I also want to point out that we specifically know Rita is gossiping and spreading lies, but then we are not aware that other journalists are doing it until obviously the government tells them don't write about this or only write about this in this way. But we are aware at that point that there is, government corruption in the media happening. Yeah. So for all we know, everyone else aside from Rita up until this point is just a good journalist.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I guess that's my follow-up question, right? So it makes sense why the Daily Prophet became, full-on yellow journalism in Order of the Phoenix from a Doylist perspective, because Jo has her issues with the press. But from a Watsonian perspective, was the Daily Prophet actually, objective in the days of Prisoner of Azkaban, and then became shitty, which seems unlikely? Or was it, shitty the whole time, and we just didn't know it? Or, which is my guess, was it just, shitty and unreliable in ways that weren't relevant to Harry? So sort of, this type of news where yeah, sure, we could totally rely on it. And then a bunch of other stuff, talking about the ministry and politics and stuff, it is as unreliable as it later appears.
I think it's probably a blend. Harry doesn't, besides these 2 kind of mentions of the Daily Prophet, the photo of Ron's family, and then the article about Sirius, Harry doesn't really read the Daily Prophet, and since everything's from his perspective, we don't really get a good look at what it really is printing on a daily basis until Order, when he's desperate for news and he's getting the prophet delivered. Otherwise, all he sees are random clippings that Ron sends him or sensational pieces that everybody's gossiping about during, the Triwizard Tournament. And so he doesn't read, the random, this is what happened in Diagon Alley the other day news. It's more just the really headline making things that are relevant to him. So I guess we don't really know because, all the other, there's more to the Daily Prophet, I'm sure, than just writing about Harry and a breakout from Azkaban and a wizarding family winning a galleon prize.
No, there is no other news in the wizarding world.
I mean, it's like
none whatsoever.
There's like 2 articles, so there has to be other things. So I feel like it just, because it isn't relevant to Harry, we just don't know about it. So it probably is a blend. I mean, we also don't know when Rita starts working for them.
That's true. She does so many different journalistic opportunities. Maybe she only gets her column at the beginning of, or at the end of Prisoner, beginning of Goblet. I think it's really fascinating because like Harry doesn't read, and that is the limiting factor here. It's really impossible to know. But then when he does start paying attention to the news and order, he doesn't take out the Daily Prophet. He just listens to Muggle news. Oh no, he does take out. I stand corrected. He does take out. He does take out the Daily Prophet. But we don't even get to like read those articles because they're not about Voldemort. He's just fed up with them. I also too wonder if Fudge isn't really that micromanaging as a minister until he feels threatened. And so once this stuff about Voldemort stuff, that's when he starts leaning on the paper. And so I wonder if he's just sort of let the paper be the paper until he really smells, or if the whole time, whenever something little comes up, he leans on the paper to get them to stop printing things.
Well, not necessarily, because we see a lot of criticism of the Ministry, and Fudge to an extent, earlier on. In Sorcerer's Stone, Hagrid mentions like, the Ministry's messing things up as usual. Fudge is a bungler if we ever saw one, which means that, back then the paper was clearly writing negative things about Fudge, because how would Hagrid know he's a bumbler?
But do you trust Hagrid's reading ability of that, Irvin? I know I do, but do you? Do you feel like he's understanding the paper correctly?
I think the big picture items, yes. The nuance, of course not.
Just trying to get you to say anything nice about Hagrid is such an ordeal.
He's very tall.
That isn't nice. That is descriptive.
That's just descriptive.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I think it's nice to be tall. I enjoy being tall, so I compliment him on his tallness.
Fine. No, but you're right. They were writing negative. Yeah. So maybe, I think that's...
Because Fudge was a new minister back then, and he sort of, shut up and tried to get on with it. And it's only once he's become entrenched and comfortable with his power that he begins dictating what the Daily Prophet writes.
Do we know that Fudge knew Harry's year? I thought that he got the job pretty much after the end of the First War instead of Barty Crouch Sr.
No. So he became minister in 1990, a year before the first book. Yeah, because Millicent Bagnold was minister sort of throughout the 80s. So, my question is, we've discussed what did happen in this chapter, but let's talk about what could have happened in this chapter. What if the night bus hadn't actually shown up? So, 2 questions. So if it doesn't show up, does Sirius reveal himself and just go on the lam with his godson?
I have to imagine that Dumbledore would intervene in some way. Yeah. Especially because Harry has to return to the Dursleys at some point, so he can't just disappear forever. And I mean, I guess it really depends on how much Dumbledore really knows about the whole Sirius situation. I don't know that we ever get a fully concrete answer. Obviously, he believes them, everything that they say at the end of the book, but you'd have to imagine Dumbledore is going to be out searching for him and keeping tabs on Harry and making sure that he gets to Hogwarts and he goes back to the Dursleys. So at some point, he is either going to come find him or he's going to send someone after him to pick him up. But I don't think... I mean, he could, I guess, try. But I don't think it would go well.
Yeah.
I also think Sirius comes across as very task-driven. Like, we hear his whole mumbling of he's in Hogwarts, he's in Hogwarts, he's in Hogwarts. Like, he's broken out to finish the job. He wants to get to Peter. And so he's sort of, he's giving himself the treat of checking in with Harry And he does that on multiple occasions throughout this whole book, but it's only ever sort of like, oh, I'm just gonna watch from afar, but I have this task, and until I haven't finished it, this is the only thing I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I disagree with that. I think his primary objective is protecting Harry, and that, taking out Peter is in service of that. Because remember, like his muttering about he's at Hogwarts and all of that, like I think the reason he broke out then is because he found out Pettigrew was in proximity to Harry, and Harry had to be protected from him.
Yeah.
Killing Pettigrew was sort of, a means to an end, not the end in and of itself.
I think we're a bit in the muddy waters of semantics. I think clearly his objective is to kill Peter. He's doing it to protect Harry. Like, those are hand in hand. They don't have to be exclusive. But I think that because Sirius feels the need to go and kill Peter rather than just absconding with his godson, that he doesn't reveal himself, and therefore he wants to go and kill Peter. Also, I think he knows that, like, Harry is going to have some protection around him, and if he kidnaps Harry, like, somebody like Dumbledore might come for him, and that's going to stop him from being able to kill Peter. All right, so I think that if the night bus doesn't come and Harry, walks away from Sirius, that we've got the first instance of Mrs. Fig coming. She's sort of clearly absent from book 3, and to me, because of the symmetry of 1, 3, and 5, and she's mentioned in 7. She is mentioned in 7 at one point. Is she? Maybe she's not. Maybe I'm thinking that she's mentioned at the 7 Potters, but she's not.
She
there.
is not.
I just couldn't.
Yeah, I control left.
Yeah.
No Fig.
Damn. Well, because of the symmetry of 1, 3, and 7, I feel like 1, 3, 7, 1, 3, 5. She is. She's absent from this book, and I think if Harry doesn't get on the night bus, that she is the person to find him. And that, or if there's some sort of leftover Order members, because I don't think Dumbledore's just letting Harry be there by himself, especially after the last 2 years. Harry just doesn't realize he's being watched until Dung does his stupid apparition.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Lucius Malfoy meets him in a dark street in London and just punts him into death.
Sure. Definitely a possibility.
Always a possibility with Lucius.
I don't know.
Snape could have killed him too.
I feel like he wouldn't though. Like, what is he gonna get out of it?
The death of Harry.
Nothing. Yeah, but why? He doesn't. He's still partially a coward. He still doesn't think that Voldemort's coming back.
Yeah, but if he's drunk enough, he did some Muggle hazing during the Quidditch World Cup. That didn't get him anything other than the joy of Muggle hazing. You get him tipsy enough, and he runs into Harry. He might be like, "I want to see the light leave your eyes."
I don't know. I feel like he might torture him a little bit.
Just a little bit of torture. I think that's fine.
Just a little light torture.
Little bit.
Just a touch of torture.
Just a touch.
But I also think, especially with Harry, like, Lucius has to know, he's already called him out on being under, Dumbledore's protection. So, like, I think he would be more scored of that.
Yeah, but who's going to
try
to crime him?
I don't think there's enough motivation for Lucius to take out Harry right now without Voldemort in the picture.
Yeah.
Again, if he's drunk enough, I think he's capable of
if he's drunk enough, all bets are off. But yeah, I also think that, yes, probably the Order of the Phoenix would have, shown up. I'm picturing, like, Dumbledore sends out, the Phoenix signal. He's like, all right, people, let's find that boy.
Go get me that child. Dumbledore, I need you to clear up what you mean here.
But also, like, mind you, when I say that he's gonna go on the lam, like, I don't think Sirius plans to just, like, abscond with Harry forever. I thought more like, Sirius and Harry have some crazy adventures over the summer holidays, and then Sirius drops him off at King's Cross on September 1st, and he's like, have a good semester.
Harry and his dog. It's the adventures of Harry and his dog.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it'll be great.
But do you think Harry would have believed him, Irvin?
I think he would have believed him. Because at the point he sees Sirius, before he gets on the night bus and everything, he hasn't heard all the anti-Sirius evidence yet. He hasn't heard that Sirius was a supporter of you-know-who. He hasn't heard about the curse with the 13 people and all that. He's just like, I mean, he's a vampiric-looking fella who's a criminal per the Muggle news, but, like, you know, who can trust that? So I think if, like, Sirius had shown up, like, transformed back into a man and he's like, don't panic, give me a minute, it'll all make sense, I think it would have been fine. Like, we know that Harry tends to trust people who have terrible judgment and make bad decisions when they show up to rescue him from the Dursleys. Like, we have a pattern here. So I think he would have been all in for it.
I mean, I just want to say this fan fiction does exist because I'm pretty sure I've read it years ago.
Yes.
So in some timeline,
yes.
Harry does believe this.
In the multiverse, Kang, get us there.
I mean, yeah, I think at this point Harry is trusting because A, he's young, and B, he's very desperate. So, you know, if an adult shows up being like, hey, don't worry about the ministry, I got you. Also, I was your dad's best friend. Yeah, the criminal thing, whole misunderstanding.
Just like your boy Hagrid.
Exactly.
I feel like he would, though. I mean, now that I'm, like, thinking it through on the Harry is a little too trusting of people, he probably would have been so happy to just meet somebody that knew his family and could tell him stories about his father and he's always looking for that substitute dad. So I feel like he probably would be more likely to believe him. I don't know that he would run off and join him, though, for an extended period of time.
For the summer?
I do agree. You know, they'd have maybe there's only 2 weeks left, so.
Harry and his dog.
But I don't know how the conversation would go. Oh, yeah, you go back to school. I'm going to go kill this dude. And so I'll see you there.
Hey, you know this rat?
Bring me this rat.
It depends, right, on sort of how it all goes, because, I mean, I presume that Sirius wouldn't lead with the fact that, hey, I was framed for murder and I'm trying to, like, kill this rat of your friends. Like, you know, I think he would have just been like, listen, whole misunderstanding, I was framed. And Harry wouldn't dig into it. Because, again, the Hagrid parallel, right? When Hagrid's like, oh yeah, I was expelled in my 3rd year. And Harry's like, well, that seems like an uncomfortable topic, so no further questions.
Yeah, for real. I'm in the family of thought that, like, Harry might literally sit down and listen and be convinced. Obviously it makes for a boring story, but I do wonder, my one hiccup is around, like, Harry just fought a bunch of magical beasts in this last one, right? He, like,
I mean, when you say a bunch, like,
you know, giant snake,
a basilisk, some acromantulas, and the pixies.
Irvin, you just said some acromantulas. That's enough. You know that. That's enough. Even if he hadn't gone up against the basilisk,
I give you that
enough.
He fought the basilisk. I think the Fort Anglia fought most of the acromantulas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, fought is
but
too strong
he also
of a word.
fought the
You're
Cornish pixies, in fairness.
Okay, he managed the Cornish pixies. He interacted with acromantula and he fought the basilisk. Are we all pleased with that?
Yes.
We can
Yes.
move forward.
Yes.
Great. So with that being
perfectly
said,
pedantic. Love it.
with that being said, I don't know how, like, you know, McGonagall going from cat to human in the presence of students, naked or not, is fairly safe. If Harry sees Sirius, especially in naked form, just come out full.
Oh, I've definitely read that fan fiction.
I think that that's an issue. I think that in a more realistic book, because, you know, the third book is still written for a younger audience than 4 through 7, that we get a little bit more of PTSD. I think Harry's going to have a little bit more time with big snarling creatures, especially if they turn into men. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why he'd have to, I mean, he couldn't just transform as the dog, I feel like. He would have to, like, go away and then just approach him
Come back
as
and be
a
like,
human.
hey,
I don't know. I don't think Harry would be that freaked out by an animagus, because his only experience with an animagus is McGonagall, and assuming she keeps her clothes on, he's totally comfortable with that.
Well, he doesn't know that yet, though. Yeah, McGonagall is showing them animagus this year, and he hasn't made it.
No. I think...
Movieism.
Is it the movieism?
It is a movieism.
Is it the movieism, Irvin?
In the second one? Or first one?
No,
first movie.
no, anime guy are definitely introduced in the first one.
Well, we know as a
I'm
reader
confident in
because
that.
McGonagall sits at the house.
I don't
and
think
stuff.
Harry knows.
I think, like, it may not be called animagus, but I'm sure she transforms into a cat.
I think that's just in the movie.
I don't think in front of students.
So let's see. I'm in the Potions Master right now.
Because it is a whole thing where she, they come out of divination, she shows it, and she's like, well, I don't, need your applause, but, some sort of reaction would be nice.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't think...
right.
And also because animagus becomes such an important plot point throughout the book.
Yeah. No, sorry, I remember that animagus had been introduced in Sorcerer's Stone. I didn't realize it wasn't to Harry. It was to the reader.
Yeah. Just to the reader, yeah.
Oh, wow, I am rusty this morning. My bad. Retracted.
I think we're now tied for movieisms, which makes me feel very good.
Yes. This is what happens when we record this early.
Oh my god.
I was confused while we were recording this early.
Oh, it's because Eurovision is going to start in half an hour.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, we should
Oh,
wrap.
goodness.
All right, Sierra, Fudge.
It's
tell
also
me about-
telling that the European doesn't care.
Something that kind of made me question a little bit Fudge is just when he finally takes Harry, he's really concerned about how he's going to go back to his aunt and uncle's house over the summer holiday, and even goes into the detail and then tries to convince him, I'm sure deep down, maybe deep down, that there's love there. And I feel like on all sides of that scenario, that would have taken so much convincing. First of all, why does Fudge care where he goes? But also, Vernon was so upset that, did Dumbledore have to intervene again and, remind Petunia, another remember my last type of situation? Did she somehow manage to smooth things over with Vernon on her own? Or did, Dumbledore have to clue Fudge in a little bit as to the seriousness of Harry returning? Because otherwise, why would Fudge really, care about, oh yeah, you're going to go back next, over the summer? It just seems kind of out of place. First of all, what would have made Vernon calm down enough to accept Harry back? And also, why does Fudge care? But it doesn't seem like he knows.
Yeah, especially day of.
I think Dumbledore explained sort of the vague outline to him. Because, I'm sure the Minister of Magic was, invested in where Harry Potter would grow up, and he would be like, with these muggles? Really? And I think Dumbledore would have had to explain, being like, Cornelius, there's a whole big blood magic thing going on. You wouldn't really understand it, but he has to stay with his aunt and uncle. I think sort of as Minister of Magic, Fudge would have to be informed, at least to that extent.
Yeah. My big question is, okay, so obviously they do Marge's memory. But I wonder if Petunia's like, hey, can you, and just sort of gestures with her head over to Vernon. And Vernon, halfway into eating a Danish, just gives her a wide-eyed stare before succumbing to the memory charm. And then he carries around a frying pan like a newborn babe, being like, there's a good lad, Dudders, for a day.
I mean, while I think that's hilarious, I don't think so, because I think Petunia views Vernon as her partner in this.
Yeah.
I think she doesn't want to keep secrets from him, because he's sort of the only person in the world who, knows and is fully on her side. So, yeah. I mean, hilarious, but no.
Although she does keep some secrets from him, because he doesn't know that she knows what Dementors are, and
Dementor,
all this stuff about Snape, she'd never shared with him. So I
we
feel like
don't know that, in fact.
well, he gives her a wide-eyed stare in order when they're talking about the Dementors, and she says that she knows what they are. He's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And
evidently shocked.
Well, that's because she's spouting off trivia about the Wizarding World. You know, I think he would know about Snape. I think he would know that there was this awful boy, and he, you know, was friends with Lily, and he bullied her, and this, that, the other. I don't think Petunia would mention, like, yeah, and that awful boy told me this fun fact about the Wizarding World. But I think sort of, you know, the relevant items, I think she would share with Vernon.
Possibly. I think, to me, it reads fairly clear that he doesn't know what Dementors are.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's indicative of her keeping secrets from him so much as, like, this is one tidbit of information that was not relevant to bring up.
I do wonder, I think we know that Vernon is very much about status and status symbols because, you know, he's showing off his new car, like he has this really high fancy job and all of that stuff. So I do wonder if, you know, the mere fact of someone showing up who is the minister, even though it is from the world he hates, and is, you know, somewhat well dressed, like Fudge is not showing up in a bathrobe, so maybe that at least stunts Vernon out of the thing to a degree where he's like, oh, okay, this is like a serious person and it's, you know, somewhat relatable to how our politicians work.
I'd give you that, because definitely in later books, people, even wizards that he with Kingsley, like he respects him and knows that he's gonna get done instead of you know, being a little wary of the more eccentric wizards who are there to shepherd them off. So I think I would kind of agree with that. They probably had a little bit more of an authority figure show up in nice dress and explain
pulled up in
the
the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Also, when you said Fudge in a bathrobe, all I could think about was my Hot Fudge cosplay.
Oh my god.
Me and a friend, we did a couple cosplay where she was Slumbridge and I was Hot Fudge.
Love it.
Yeah. It was a lot harder to find a see-through pinstriped shirt than you'd think.
Pixar, it didn't happen, my guy. On the website.
How long ago was this?
I think I first wore it like 7-8 years ago, and know there are pictures of this online.
But you need to put them on our website so that our viewers can see them.
I feel like if you went to find a see-through pinstripe shirt now, though, you would have no problem.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot easier in this day and age. Let me tell you, like, the search results I found on Amazon, just really odd, some of them.
So funny.
But yeah, back to how this whole thing went. I don't know how intensely Dumbledore would have had to interfere with Petunia, because I think Petunia sort of is cognizant of the fact that, like, this part really is non-negotiable. And I also think Petunia probably realizes that Aunt Marge is a bit of a nightmare. Like, you know, not that she would ever side with Harry over Aunt Marge, but I think she could also be like, well, it's hard to say that was unprovoked.
Well, and Marge did go after her sister.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, in Order of the Phoenix...
If there's something wrong with the there's something wrong with the pup.
Like, in Order of the Phoenix, Petunia was freaking out because there was danger to her family, from external forces. This is like, I mean, Marge pissed off the wrong moody teenager, like, and then I think Petunia would, like, manage Vernon. She's like, no, sweetie, like, yes, she's your sister, but, like, no, sweetie, we have to, like, it's only for the summer. So, yeah, I don't think it would have been quite as big a to-do as Remember My Last.
Yeah, that's true.
But talk of uncles and nephews and all that, there's this odd turn of phrase where Fudge surveys Harry like an uncle surveying his favorite nephew. And, like, I get where Joe's going with that. Like, I get the description, and all that. But in context, it's an odd choice because... there aren't a lot of very loving uncle-nephew relationships in these books. Like, the two that we see are Vernon and Harry, and Morphin Gaunt and Tom Riddle. Which, like, at least Harry never framed Vernon for murder, so I think they actually have the better uncle-nephew relationship in this series.
Yeah.
And, like, the only other one I can think of is Ted, Tonks, and Draco, who have also never framed each other for murder, as far as we know.
There's also
there's
Cormac...
Uncle
Uncle Billsley. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was
Billy.
going to do.
Uncle Bilius, yes.
But isn't he dead because he saw the Grim?
He is, exactly.
So, yikes.
But also, isn't there, in the Slug Club, there's that guy whose uncle invented the Wolfbane potion, but he and his dad don't get on.
Oh, Marcus
right.
Belby.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
see, and
Belby.
he also is estranged from his uncle. So there are no good uncle-nephew relationships in this book.
Isn't it Neville's uncle who dropped him out of the window?
No, great uncle.
Oh, great uncle.
Great uncle.
Yeah.
Well,
but still.
uncle was in it, so.
It counts.
Nay. Okay, the phrase is not like a great uncle serving his favorite great nephew.
But, like,
We want
also-
specifics.
Also, think about it because, all these books are slightly from Harry's point of view. So the fact that Harry's sort of perceiving this look of love and admiration as surveying his favorite nephew is kind of sad because he doesn't know what it is to be perceived as a son.
Aww.
Even though he's the only nephew Vernon has.
I mean,
I am the favorite.
yes, yeah, the way Vernon looks at him is how an uncle looks at his favorite nephew.
I'm gonna get expelled. Dear God.
That's like when I was little and my aunts and uncles would be like, "You're my favorite niece," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm your only niece."
Oh, I do that with my grandma. Every time, like, I come over to her place and she's like, "You gotta leave, it's dangerous after dark." And I was like, this is how you act when your favorite grandson comes over. Because, yes, I'm the only grandson.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, also, like, on Fudge and him with the audacity of Harry asking Fudge to sign the permission form, Harry can walk around Diagon Alley by himself for 2 weeks, but he can't visit but he refuses to sign the permission form so that Harry can visit Hogsmeade, which is the entirely only wizarding village or settlement in Britain. And he's got classmates with him there, and often professors are in Hogsmeade too. Like, surely Hogsmeade would be safer for him to visit. I mean, all you have to do is just say, okay, but, like, Hagrid's got to go with you every time. Or...
Oh, yes.
You have someone, like, I mean, I'm not saying Hagrid may be the best option, but he's at least large and you would know where Harry is at all times. Like, you just
because
the tall guy.
Because in Half-Blood Prince, when Hagrid is watching out for Harry in Diagon Alley, no mischief happens.
None
he's
whatsoever.
inside the whole time.
But that's in Diagon Alley. My point stands.
Listen, I'm gonna borrow a
This is
phrase from Binge
Hogsmeade.
Mode. No safer place? Really? No safer place whatsoever ever? No safer place than Hogwarts. If the professors can't keep Harry safe, and they cannot at Hogwarts, what's going to make you think that they can make it safe at Hogsmeade?
I'm not necessarily saying that professors will.
Out of here with that mundungus, okay? Harry almost got plastered with a white dude appropriating a turban for evil, then murdered by a furless hobbit, almost eaten by spiders, and would have been eaten by a snake if not for a flying magical pelican, okay? The Forbidden Forest is like 2 feet away from Hogsmeade. The only danger Harry's in is if he gallivants into London, and other than the potential kidnapping and murder and bad taste for theater, his only danger in London is getting hit by a taxi, and he just bounce, right? He just
What do
bounce
you
like
have
Neville
against
does.
West End Theater? How very dare you?
Also, how dare you with magical flying pelican? Fox demands respect.
The West End Theater
Justice
is so
for
much
Fox.
better than Broadway. They have much better taste than we do.
I know. I apologize to the theater goers in the West End and to Fox.
You're just continuing to alienate
I know,
every
Yeah.
single person.
That's fine. I can alienate people in London. It's not like they care about Harry Potter. It's not where it came from.
Okay, but still, like, if Diagon Alley isn't safer than Hogsmeade, or is safer than Hogsmeade somehow, and Hogwarts is supposedly no safer place, just send him to Hogwarts early.
Yeah, for real though. That's my thing. Is like just put him in the Gryffindor Tower.
Like, just he goes there, and he just shows up a little bit early.
But Dumbledore is on holiday, which is why Fudge has to deal with all of this. He's currently on, what is it, Mallorca?
Yeah, he's on the beach
so,
rubbing suntan lotion on his nose.
So what, Tom the innkeeper is more responsible than anybody who they could get in Hogsmeade, including Dumbledore's brother?
He's the only good Tom in this story.
Yeah, Tom never did anything weird with goats.
That we know.
That we know of.
And yet he's not in the order.
I honestly think Fudge is the important bit here. I think he's afraid of having two disasters on his hand, the breakout from Azkaban and Harry Potter being murdered by the person. Like, he's this child. And so I think they want Harry to feel safe and content, and for some reason, they seem to have an understanding, at least Dumbledore does, because Dumbledore might be orchestrating this whole thing, that if they limit Harry to just staying inside his, like, room, that he's gonna break out, right? And so they give him a little bit of leeway, and that lets him go around Diagon Alley.
Yeah.
Joke's on them, though. Sirius has already been feet from Harry. Like, cool, thanks for not murdering him.
Yeah, but it's because they don't know that, so Sirius was muttering, he's at Hogwarts. So I think they're afraid that Sirius is going to go after Harry at Hogwarts.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's why they're like, Sirius would never show up in Diagon Alley, so yeah, he'll be fine there.
I think it's funny that Sirius, like, I don't know where in the North Sea Azkaban is, obviously. I didn't think it was as far south as London. Like, I didn't think he doggy paddled through the Thames to get to London. But it's funny that he goes as far south as Surrey and then makes the trip up to Scotland. Where, like, he's in the North Sea. He could have gone northwest and just made it to Scotland.
I mean, it's not like he has a lot going on right now. So he's taking a scenic route through the British Isles, because, like, he's been locked up for 12 years. He won't be
at Hogwarts until September 1st, so he's got time.
Right.
That's true.
Breathe some fresh air, see the scenery.
Gets through the Cotswolds. Says hi to Aurelia.
Yeah.
I'll keep a lookout for big black dogs.
Yeah. And also, like, I think Fudge and all the adults don't grasp quite what a huge deal Hogsmeade is for Harry. Like, you know, for Diagon Alley, like, you need somewhere to put the kid for 2 weeks. You're not gonna, like, keep him under house arrest. Hogsmeade, like, it's a couple afternoons a year. They're like, I mean, so the kid doesn't get to go on field trips, but he's safe. Like, that's not a big sacrifice. Because they don't remember what it is to be 13, where all your friends are doing something cool without you.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I still say just send him to Hogwarts then.
But he's at Hogwarts, Sierra.
Yeah, he's safer away from Hogwarts.
I mean when he's, instead of keeping him in Diagon Alley.
Yes, but he's at Hogwarts. So don't put Harry there yet.
But then
Harry he's still got to go back anyway.
Harry will be there.
And like literally they have him take the train. Like, hey, Harry, he's at Hogwarts. You know where he'll be September 1st? On a train with very little adults.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't worry.
It's like, change the system.
Yeah, but don't worry. There's a trolley lady with long nails.
No, God, no, there is not.
There is absolutely not.
There is not. Get out of here with that.
Fine. I retract my statement.
Yes.
You should.
Yeah. All right. I think that is it. I think we are good to leave Harry where he is questionably safe in Diagon Alley. So now it is time for a new segment on our podcast.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
Yeah, basically our 7th episode about all the 7s in Harry Potter went so well, we've decided we're just going to make it a regular segment on the podcast. So let us tell you about the 7 ingredients of today's special at the pub.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
In Prisoner of Azkaban Chapter 3, there are 7 named characters whom we see in person during the chapter. They are Harry Potter, Ernie Prang, Stan Shunpike, Cornelius Fudge, Tom the Bartender, Madame Marsh, and at the very end of the chapter, Hedwig.
We see Sirius Black, my guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about Sirius?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are 7 human characters, even if they are not human in the moment, whom we see in this chapter.
Harry Potter. Ernie Prang.
Yes.
Stan Shunpike.
Cornelius Fudge. Tom, Madam Marsh, and Sirius Black, who is a human, although we see him as a dog.
Well done.
It is all about the qualifiers, as we learned on episode 7. So yes, our human characters.
You can scrape 7 out of anything.
Listeners, as always, we'd love to hear any other sets of 7 you have found in the chapter.
Yeah, please go diving for us. Skiving snack boxes for you all if you find more 7s. I can't promise that. It's fine. Hey, Irvin.
Yeah?
Do you know what's playing on the pub's jukebox today?
I do. It's a really fun Wizard Rock song called Get on the Bus by Oliver Boyd and the Remembrals, which is all about how Harry wants to get the hell away from the Dursleys, because, as Oliver Boyd sings, Uncle Vernon never stops with the insults and the hating. And so he just gets his ticket for the night bus and goes for a ride. And it's a really fun song by Oliver Boyd and the Remembrals that Patrick is going to play for you right now.
I can't believe I gotta stay here. I think I'm going crazy. 'Cause Uncle Vernon never stops with the insults and the hazing. And little Dudders is a fat kid who's always complaining. And Aunt Petunia ain't no better. She's what you call a hater. Get your ticket for the night. Ticket for the night bus and say hello to Sunshine Pride. Get your ticket for the night bus and go for a ride. Get your ticket for the night bus and say hello to Sunshine Pride.
Yay! Great song. Well, all that's left for us to do is to thank Sierra for visiting us here at the Three Broomsticks. It was so wonderful to have you here with us for this somewhat lengthy episode. You did fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, you guys. This was really fun.
So, do you have anything you want to plug? Any social media where our listeners can find you?
I'm not on too much social media, but if you want, you can follow my cats. My cats are on Instagram. It is Remy, R-E-M-Y, _, and _ Kida, K-I-D-A, _ and _ Freya, the traditional spelling, F-R-E-Y-J-A.
Oh, that is a lot of underscores, but I think we can handle it.
It is a lot of underscores and a lot of ands.
It's to make sure we get the right cats. We don't want people following the wrong cats.
Yeah,
no,
come on,
my
get out of
cats
here.
only. And my cats only follow other cats. So if we don't follow you back, that's why. Make a cat Instagram. Catstagram.
Catstagram. You've got nothing but Catstagram. Here we go. Huge thanks to Sam, not me, who bought us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Sam. Much
Thank you very
appreciated.
much. Indeed. If you would like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3 broomsticks. That's with the numeral 3. To sign up, we're offering bonus content, chats with the hosts, and on-episode shoutouts to our patrons. There's a lot of administrative expenses, websites, hosting fees, and so on involved with keeping the lights on at the Three Broomsticks. We would really appreciate your help in supporting this podcast so we can talk about Harry Potter for a long time to come, especially with that new show coming out. It will be back in the zeitgeist. And if you like our show, don't forget to tell your friends. Word of mouth helps, especially this early on in the process, and it really helps hugely. We would love to see, all these people that you bring to us. Rate and review us. Put the comments in on the episodes. We've been having some really awesome comment discussions that you all should check out. The last episode that we had that I read on was the episode 6 comments, and they're just phenomenal. We have some really awesome people in there, so check them out. It's like bonus content, basically.
Yeah, so for all of those comments, you can go to our website, 3broomstickspod.com, and that's with the 3 spelled out. There, we would love to hear from you and all your comments. You can see the discussions we're having. We'll also have links to any essays we mentioned. You can submit a topic. You can listen to the Wizard Rock songs we mentioned. You can, what else can you do on our website? You can do anything on our website. You can, see pictures of me in see-through pinstriped shirts, and who wouldn't want that? You can also shoot us an email at 3broomstickspod@gmail.com. That's with the number 3. And also, we are all over social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Our assorted handles can be found in the episode description or on our website. We won't bother rattling them off for you.
Next time we meet at the Three Broomsticks, we'll be discussing fathers for Father's Day. So, we just talked about mothers, and now the fathers are next.
Yeah, and they're a little bit more complicated and messy than the mothers were.
I mean, we had some interesting conversations about the mothers as well, so it got dark.
It did. Mm-hmm. There's a trigger warning in that episode.
Yes.
I leave you people for one episode and we get trigger warnings.
We had
one episode.
We had Lori Kim, so...
Oh, classy Aureo. Blame it on the guests.
Yeah. I'm Aureo.
I'm Irvin.
I'm Sam. Don't forget, if you didn't like this episode, it's Sierra's fault. Thank you for listening. See you next time in the Three Broomsticks. 1, 2, 3...
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here. Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
Mommy? Mother. Daddy? Daddy? Bye-bye.